so welcome again to another Utility Advisory Committee meeting. And I guess we'll start out with confirmation of posting a roll call. Everything's posted? Okay, and so I just go down the line. So we have Howard.
Here.
Myself, Larry Carr.
Here. I'm here.
Ned. We're missing Greg and Andy today. So there's three of us and we have a quorum. So I guess we can do the Pledge of Allegiance now.
There we got the flag in now there.
Sorry, again.
Hi, here you go.
Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so I guess we'll go to the first comment period. So is there any comments that was emailed or called in? Okay, nothing. And we'll just, so right now, if anybody would like to call in, it's 702-589-9629, and this is just relating to, this comment period is for what's on the agenda for this meeting. Give it just a minute or so. Okay, so hearing no comments and no comments that were emailed or phoned in, we'll continue on. Since we have a relatively short agenda, but is there any reason that anybody would like to move anything around? Staff, anything to help with the staff's time frame or anything? Okay.
I'm good too.
Okay, so then I guess we'll start off with the agenda item number 1 for possible action approval of the August 2nd, 2023 Utility Advisory Committee meeting minutes. Does anybody have any comments on the minutes?
I didn't.
So I have one comment that if we need to remove Marty Ryle from the minutes since he was no longer a member. So if there's no comments, then I will make a motion to approve the minutes with the deletion of Marty being in the members and part of the absence.
I second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Passes unanimously. Okay, so then we'll go to status update on progress and developments of ongoing capital improvement projects. So I guess, Joe, if you want to kick us off there.
Sure. Utility engineer Bill Brunica is going to give a status update on ongoing capital and improvement projects.
Good afternoon, committee members. Referring to the list of CIP projects in your packet, and I'll be glad to go down each of these to either reiterate or elaborate on the status. There is status mentioned on that list. We can go into more detail or keep going however you would like. So that's what I'm referring to, if that's okay, right? Okay, good. All right, good, thanks. Thanks, everybody. So at the top are several electrical projects, then we've got water, wastewater, and I'll be glad to go through each of these. And starting at the top, look, referring to the project code number. For example, the one at the top, E1901, that's in progress. And that is correct. The next 4 are shown as being closed.
Sorry, Bill. Just get a little more data. So the feeder 63 to substation 3, I'm trying to remember if in the, on the dashboard in the, on the website, if there was a little more data. Is that one, is the money, any money going from that to another project? Is that one, I know some of the monies are being moved. I can't remember if that one was, any money at the end was being moved, or was that just expected to be completed by the end of the year?
Nothing moved on that one, but the next 4, yes, we do have some funds being moved.
Okay. And so we're in progress on the feeder 63 to substation 3. Is there a point when you think it will be completed?
By the end of the fiscal year.
By the end of the fiscal year?
Yep.
Does that feeder, does that require a lot of underground work? I know you're gonna, on, I think Wyoming, you're gonna go ahead and get on the overhead that takes it on out to sub 3, but are you gonna have to do some underground across the highway and coming up? Is that pretty much done through the Claremont Heights area down here?
So that, the underground work has been done, the conduits are in on that one. And so now they're pulling the cable.
Okay, and it's all 500 or 1,000 MCM?
That's 500, right? Yeah.
Okay, just curious.
Now, when you say the cable, are you talking about, and we'll get down there in just a minute, but is that feeder 53 or feeder 54?
60.
Well, but it was the, okay, so underground cable is something different then, okay. So I misunderstood that, because we had the thing with the substation 3 with 53 and 54, so we'll get into that later. Okay, sorry.
Okay, the next 4 we're showing closed, but there are funds moved that were unused from those, and I can itemize those if you want.
Okay.
For example, 1902, 1907, and 2101, those unused funds are going down to E2303, the meter upgrades.
Okay.
So 1902, the amount was 20,379. I'm sorry, 1907. 1907, the amount's 26,413. And for E2101, the amount moved that wasn't used from that project, 79,789. So those are all going down to the meter upgrades E2303. That's about 10 further down on the list.
And then that's going to, will that be upgraded in one of the new capital improvements for the city manager report?
Yes. And we'll get to that one, 2303.
So is that meter upgrade, that's basically the 3-phase meters around town? Or does that include the change out of the existing residential meters that can be read remotely?
It's both. It's now residential also. In fact, when we get to that one, we actually changed the name of that project because it did sound, the name was commercial, but it's really residential. So now E2303, we're just calling meter upgrades.
Okay, so it takes care of both of them then.
Right.
So is that moving along pretty well, the remote metering capabilities?
Yes.
Most of the neighborhoods now can be read remotely. I mean, by driving down the street, is what I'm saying, yeah. Okay.
Okay, of this closed set right here, the one that we skipped over, E1905, Those leftover funds are moving down to E2103. The Circuit 6364 tie. And so that amount out of 1905 is 94,130. So that's the status update on those closed projects. Okay, then circuit, or actually, I'll still using the project number, E2102 and E2103. Design is in process by CM Works for about $50,000. And that's the current activity on that project.
Does that require much undergrounding to do that, or are you going to try and take advantage of the overhead that you've got down there? I know that there's only a certain amount of overhead, but there's a fair amount of underground probably involved there. Is that existing conduit, or is that going to require new trenching to do that?
That's new, I believe, right?
Is it?
That's all new.
Okay. Just so you have a better tie between the two stations there, huh?
So you're going from, so planning is including design, or are we going from planning includes design?
Planning is design. Yep.
Okay. So both of them, and was it $50K for both or for each individual one?
For both.
For both, okay. And so we're in planning stage. Is there any indication of, so then you design, so you'll have to go out to bid then, is right?
Yes.
And is there any time frame for it might go to bid?
Third quarter.
Third quarter. So then you wouldn't, most likely won't even start construction then until fiscal year '25.
Or the last quarter.
Okay, because we're talking, well, so third quarter, are we talking March? Or are we talking January? January is, make sure I'm getting my fiscal year correct. So we're in the second quarter now. Is that
Yep.
correct?
So by the end of third quarter.
By the end of third quarter, so
Yeah.
sometime by the end of March. So then March, and then the third quarter, that's going into, so like I said, so going to bid, I don't see, it's not too likely you're going to get bid and construction started in 3 months. So just trying to understand how okay, so we're looking at, basically, we're probably looking at the beginning of fiscal year '25,
For the work to start.
right? And how long do we expect that to go?
That'll be 6 months.
6 months, okay. And do we think we're going to be able to get both of them started and completed together?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you.
E2201. We're designing that in-house. So that's the current status on that project.
Now that one I think is in fiscal year '26, is that comes back? I think that's in the 5-year plan, so I guess we can look at that in the 5-year plan, because I think that's part of the 5-year plan, to start that again in '26. Yeah, so there's additional money, and then, so you're looking at, you're designing it, but you don't plan to do anything with it until fiscal year '26, is that correct?
Not 25. We had 25 or 26 on that one.
You're showing an additional $2 million, unless you're thinking you would be able to start it in '25, and then you need additional dollars in '26. I'm assuming the scope got largely increased on that. We're going from 200,000 to 2 million, and I'm not sure if that includes the 200,000, well, 2.6, if that includes the 200,000 or if that's, actually, it's almost 300,000.
Just to clarify, Larry, where what you're referring to?
So I guess
Yeah.
we're doing ongoing, so I guess we can talk about it, but if you look at the 10-year plan, the 5-year capital, you've got the feeder 1424, so make sure I got my numbers right. I believe it is, the feeder 1424 tie, so that's E2201, and yes, it's E2201, so in the capital 5-year plan, you've got it in fiscal year 26 as an additional $2.6 million.
So that's for the construction and the work?
Right, okay, so you're planning to start construction in fiscal year 26?
Yes.
Okay, so, but like I said, I'm assuming things changed quite a bit, so, because this has been on the books for a little while. So I think I remember that's when you probably told us about before, I think that was, some things were changed, and then we got put out with getting all the design work and stuff.
Yeah, this project's part of the conversion, kind of a key component to the conversion from 4160 to 12.5 kV, because essentially, those circuits will be renamed to whatever, substation's going to pick them up when substations 1 and 2 drop off.
Okay.
Do you remember what the path of that particular feeder is? Is it coming down Arizona like the others that come out of Sub 1R, or is it going to go down Date Street or something like that? Because I would think that, are you going to have to go overhead where you hit Avenue B there, is what I'm wondering about.
I think all the overhead's already in
Is it?
place.
So will this be a new trenching? Because it looks like a lot of money. That's what I was wondering. Is it going to be a new trenching operation from Sub 1 all the way down to Sub 2?
That's my understanding, yeah, to link those circuits together, and that would be a new tie,
Okay.
from probably substations 3 and
Sub 1 to 2.
4.
Well, that'll be between 1 and 2 probably, but 2 to pick up some of the 2 circuits, I would imagine. So anyway, I can find out later. I was just curious about that
Sure.
one. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, good. E2202, we're doing that work in-house. The next step of that project is ordering the materials in-house to be done by the end of the fiscal year.
Okay, I'm sorry. We're talking Red Mountain now, E2202?
Yes.
I thought we were almost done.
I thought we were too.
I thought it was completed. So we had poles and we
I
had a
think
lot
it's
of.
in operation, isn't it? I mean, a new feeder, new conductors are energized and,
Yeah, there's a number of the dual-rated transformers that have to be put in. So it's in service at 4160.
up on top that need to be changed out.
Yeah. A couple of the transformers going up there need to be the dual-rated
Yeah,
transformers, but it is in service now, completed.
okay.
Okay,
at
so the
4160.
$1 million that was used, or $1 million plus, was to get all the poles and everything established.
And the line.
And the line, okay.
Yeah, I remember that original FAA transformer was basically just a, I think it was a 2400 volt transformer, actually.
So is that 99,000 to be enough for the transformers, or is additional money needed for that? Okay. Thank you.
Okay, good. E2301, that's substation 3 rebuild that we're using CRC. And that project is going to CRC's December meeting for their board approval of the transformer specs, so we can get that on order.
So have they got a design pretty much finished as far as how that's going to go, that station?
Yes.
And no, you're just not buying parts?
So we have the substation layout, the proposed new layout, and the specifications for the transformer that we've reviewed in-house, and we're all good with it here. So now the next step is CRC needs to.
So are they going to be the 20 MVA transformers, or are they going to be probably a couple of 12, 16, 20s, or 20, 20, I don't know, I think the new one they're wanting to put in. Will there be 2 of those, I guess, in there, huh?
Yes.
Okay. Probably, it'll be the same transformers as the other stations, though, I would imagine, the new ones. that are
The
going
new
in.
ones.
Yeah,
New
right,
ones, yeah.
okay.
And when do you think those will possibly be ordered? And then the order time frame, is that around that 18 months?
Yeah, for delivery time. So they'll have to get bids So by the end of third quarter, they should have a selection.
Okay. So, but since, if I understand correctly, we're doing the substation in a different location nearby?
Substation 3?
3.
No, same site.
Just over a couple hundred feet.
The layout will be a little different, but same site.
I guess, so do we have to shut it? Because at one point we talked about we weren't going to we didn't have to shut 3 down to do the work until we were done. So is that still the process, or has it been changed back to where 3 will have to be shut down to do the work?
It's only about 300 feet away from the new location's only about 200 or 300 feet away from the old location.
That was just making
Yeah,
sure
not-
that's what
yeah,
that's still the plan?
Yeah, not even that far.
Yeah, it's just,
So you,
And so a lot of the work can be done still in service, but at some point there will be a cutover, and we're studying how to shift the loads to the other substations for that time period where you actually do the changeover.
yeah, that's what, because I think just making sure we were, because in the beginning that was why some of the other stuff was so key, because it was going to be off possibly a year, or it was a longer period to be off, and now it'll just be a shorter period, I'm assuming.
Correct. No, so the outage, we'll definitely figure out how to minimize the
well, if you
the
do it in the
downtime.
fall or the spring, you can take it out of service and pick up the load on the other stations without any problem.
Exactly.
So it'll be easy to do.
And then, so, so we're looking at that to be done in still July of '25? So it'd actually be fiscal year '26?
Yes.
Okay. And so then, now with taking longer to get the transformers, we were hoping that was going to be actually down to 4.5 for that. Do we still expect we can get that, or, because we got 5.6 here? Because I know but that was that was what was budgeted, and then after with CRC, we were hoping to get the budget down. So with all the changes, and we still have supply issues, and I understand all that, the costs are still going up and everything. Are we hoping that we still possibly can come in at the 4.5, or is it looking like it might be more?
Yeah, till we get bids. I don't think we're inclined to change this number till we really get some bids in.
No, I understand that. It'd be nice, like, we might be able to put that into one of the other substations, which we'd be able to reduce some of our capital if we get lucky enough to get even $500,000 to $1 million left over.
Yeah.
So, okay. Thank you.
And 2302 sub 4. So we're moving that out to 25 or 26.
That'd be fiscal year '26?
Yes.
So so we're still, so the plan is now to order the transformers closer to the time. So you're going to only order the transformers you need for the substation. You're not going to order any in advance. Is that what I'm understanding?
Correct.
Okay, so then when do you think you'd be ordering the transformers for substation 4?
I don't think we've mapped that out yet. From what I've seen, we haven't.
That's in the 5-year CIP?
Right, yeah, because we have it in for next year is when the 2 million for the transformer.
Right, so that's when we expect to do that.
So we're hoping to get that, we can get that ordered by then. Okay,
sir.
That'd be great. So
You don't
then,
really need it until your substation 1 is ready to be taken out of service, because it'll pick up sub 1's load, the additional load there.
but we won't be starting construction until fiscal year '26, once 3 is completed, right?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
2303 we talked about, now being called meter upgrades, ongoing, as it has been.
And because didn't we just complete a major residential upgrade with $1 million just a couple of years ago? I guess
Yeah,
that's
I'm not
what.
familiar with that.
Okay, because
What,
I thought that completed, I thought a lot of the residential electrical meters, because I know we have water to go. I thought we had all the residentials upgraded to electronic.
Remote read, yeah.
Yeah, so if we're saying that we still have to do both, and then in the capital plan, we've got more coming in again in the future, I guess I'm just trying to understand what still has to be done.
Yeah, they're on a replacement cycle to make sure that the ones that need to be replaced get replaced out in the field. What we're having to do quite frequently is solder on new batteries and do a lot of that because the batteries in the meters are kind of going out. So
I
it's
see.
part of the just meter replacement program.
This is
Is
in the
what
water
this-
meters? Do you have-
No, these are electric meters.
In the electric, you have batteries in the electric meters?
Yeah, so we're going to a solid state type.
Yeah, but
The
you think that
transition.
they would be basically powered off of the, I don't know, maybe I just don't, I wasn't, I know that the water meters have batteries, but I didn't know that they had electric meters that had batteries in them. That's
Mhm.
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, good. E2304, and that will be FY '27. E2305, that's in process, that's in-house work.
So that's in progress, is that in construction? Is that gone to construction?
We're waiting for the purchasing of to get the materials in for the cable, and then in-house labor is going to pull that cable into that circuit.
Okay, now, was that the one that was done, on River Mountain Road? Was that where they buried the cable and stuff? Was that what's partly done, or was that a different project?
River Mountain Road.
So it goes down
Remind me when that's
Wyoming, they did Wyoming, and then I think it's River Mountain Road, used to be Alaska, it's the far end of Wyoming. and it
That's
connects to
that's
Adams.
53.
No, 53 was San Felipe. And so there was a project that Greg had commented on how he really appreciated the workmanship and how they did that.
63?
I'm sorry, 63.
63, okay,
63.
63, okay, that was what was, okay. So this is still, all that has to be, and this one is, so because this is going down, continuing it down to 5, is that what I'm understanding? Cable 54 is getting it all the way down to 5, substation 5?
Circuit 4 and substation 5.
Okay. So is it taking 53 down to 5, or is it just making sure everything's connected?
No, it's just the replacement of feeder 54, is my understanding.
Okay, my understanding was it was to help with the substation 3. Help me out here. With I guess when
I'm curious, 54 is between right now, those are on the existing overhead transmission line that go between the two stations. I'm just curious if they have another route that's gonna go down there. I'm just not familiar with that circuit. Interesting. Because there's two circuits that are tied between substation 5 and substation 4 that go on the transmission line, on the underbuild. I think it's 556 conductor or something like that.
Yeah, I'll work on pulling it up on GIS right here while we're discussing the rest.
Okay, thank you.
And yes, so we're getting materials for that. So the crew will work on that one, 2305, after finishing 1901.
19, okay.
E2401. Okay, so we're planning third and fourth quarter. Oh, wait a minute, sorry. So we're planning third and fourth quarter of FY '24.
That's to go out to bid for those two transformers? Or are they, you're not out to bid yet, I don't suppose, on them, but so.
the transmission switches.
Yeah, I know you're gonna be changing the transmission switches on that 69 line that goes down Buchanan.
Okay. Yeah.
I know we're kind of taking advantage of, you haven't been here very long to know all this stuff yet, but you're getting good at it, you really are. You're coming up to speed pretty quick.
Good help from Joe and our excellent finance people. Uh, 2402, that's the pole replacement, distribution poles, that's in process. We've seen that contractor around town pretty much daily.
You're probably getting pretty close to the end of those, aren't you? I mean, I've seen a lot of new poles all over town, so I imagine that you're coming close anyway.
Yeah, maybe next time we'll have a pole count.
Yeah, because actually in the capital plan, you've got it for 2 more years at 900,000, so for 25
Yeah.
and 26, so.
Yeah, so maybe there
It's-
must be still a few of them out there, I guess. Well, they're old poles. They were put in, and some of them came from the TVA back in the 30s, I know, so.
They've been doing a lot of work, and it seems like we ought to be done, but there's still
No, yeah.
many more to go.
Mhm.
Okay, our next one on our list, UE 182, Arizona Street feeder, that's to the shops. And we also need a generator and transfer switch to finish that job.
What's the generator for?
Back up at the shops.
Oh, at the shop, okay,
Yeah.
all right.
So you need to order the generator?
Yes,
So that's still probably then gonna be a little while before that can be closed out then?
correct.
We just need to, we have the generator. We need it hooked up with the automatic transfer switch and set and put in service.
Mhm.
So all the connections and everything needed at the shops.
Okay, so that one should be able to be closed out by the end of fiscal year for sure?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, okay, the transfer switch is what we need to complete. Moving to the next section, starting with R 2312, that's the ABC Park rehab. So that project is closed. The one additional detail to point out is that it's also funded by R 2312 further down on the list, out of the sewer section. So this project is mentioned twice on our CIP list because it's funded from both of those,
You
from
had
water and
sewer. You
wastewater.
had water and sewer issues there, okay. Now, was that one of the ARPA projects, or? No, okay.
UV 241, the Vector truck. So that's on order.
Now, was that 650 what it ended up costing, or did we get any break on that?
No, that's what it ended up costing.
Okay. So that's most likely then gonna go into the encumbered stage here pretty quick then?
Yes. W 2304, another truck, the first response truck, so that's on order as well.
And that looks like it's pretty much, that looks like it's coming in on budget also then. That's what I'm seeing the encumbered on. Well, I guess we're a little bit over, but not much. Couple hundred, so.
Under available budget, it's showing a negative number.
Yes, so it's just a small amount, luckily.
That's because after we scoped it out, we discovered that a $2,500 light bar needed to be added to the order. W2006, our ongoing copper services replacement. Still in process, nothing more to add to that from prior talking about it.
Are there still a lot of services in town that need to be replaced?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
are the old, was it PVC or just the poly that was failing primarily? The PVC services, or was it the poly that's, it seemed like the poly was always the weak one.
It's been both from what I've seen.
Oh, really?
So then, now, so the remaining that's gonna take us through 25, and then we'll start up again with 26, is that, I'll ask at the capital project, but right now, we don't have any funds for that in 25, and I'm assuming we're gonna continue to work, or are we stopping in 25?
We've been shifting more funds to that out of other projects. Endpoint, or how far out are we showing that one?
Additional money coming in 26.
Yeah, 26.
Yeah, because the 10-year, the 5-year plan has it all the way, for the full entire 5-year plan, all the way
Yeah.
through 29. And so but is that, so the money that we've got budgeted, so right now we're showing 862 million. Was that all ARPA, or was just part of that? Because I know we had some ARPA money for that, right? Okay, so part of it's ARPA and part of it, it's not, so, okay.
Okay. W2008, El Dorado PRV. So we've just started work on that, specifically the water model that's needed to then move to design. And we're finishing up the water modeling to decide where the PRV stations need to be, and
So-
then design from there.
Okay, so can I ask now, or do we want to wait until we get to the 14-inch line? Because I guess we have 2 lines going down, correct? 2 lines going down
Well,
towards the solar. One
there's-
stops and
Yeah,
one
exactly.
continues on. So we have a line to nowhere, sorry, but we have a line that was installed that, are we ever going to be able to do anything with that line, or not?
Probably someday, but I don't think we really have a plan for it yet.
So we can't utilize that line, take it, and then take it from that point on down to the solar to help with the solar issue with this 14-inch line.
That would be future project.
Okay, but all we're talking about right now, I think in both cases, is just the PRVs? The pressure
Yes,
reducing valve?
on the existing line.
On the existing line?
Yep.
Okay.
Is that existing line in service now, but you're just worried about the potential failure with the pressure? Is that the reason for the
Yeah.
PRVs?
There's a couple spots along that line where the pressures are pretty high.
Yeah, because down the bottom of the valley, for sure, yeah.
So the one project was to design it, and then the next project is to construct it, is that what, or put it in place, I guess, or
Yes.
change them out?
But even that can't start until we finish what they call the modeling, where they actually estimate the pressures along the entire route, and then that tells you where the PRV station needs to go, and then you start designing at that spot.
And some of that money was ARPA money, was it not? Didn't we put some of the ARPA money in towards that? Because I thought we had most of 23 for the water and sewer was ARPA, and I guess I'm trying to track that, and I'm having a hard time tracking it, how the ARPA money fits into the budgets now.
Not for this one, right?
So do it, because that, I believe this is part of the ongoing, we can ask, Joe, do you agree that this should be part of the agenda item?
Sure.
To ARPA? So do we want to, I guess, Bill, maybe we'll just, if that's okay, we'll have Bill finish, and then if I can ask a question at the end, then we can ask finance about some of the ARPA, that's okay?
Yeah, that's no problem.
Okay, so instead of interrupting Bill, so, thank you.
W2103, reservoir improvements, which for now, we are focusing only on the east tank. That's the tank that's out of service currently.
So in the past, we had talked about taking, I guess it's been several years ago, taking the tank, whether the tank was going to have to be taken out of service and drained to do some of the inside work, I believe it was. So is that is that what had to happen with that one? Is it being drained or just? So 'cause there
It's
was-
dry right now.
Okay,
Yeah.
so then you're,
The big valve in the bottom, I think, that was just shot, wasn't it? The big drain valve, or was it the one that actually fed the line with water? Is that the one that was the bad one? I know that, remember seeing pictures of it, it looked pretty bad, but is that, are there more than one valve involved there that are in trouble?
The east tank, so we just had an in-depth assessment of the east tank.
Oh, you're talking, this isn't the underground, you're talking the tank over here on the hill?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I was thinking the underground, okay.
So out of service meaning empty. It could be a part of our raw water scheme.
That was the plan, if I remember.
So
right.
that's why we wanted to study it and see what's involved with returning that tank to service and how that would fit into our raw water system plan.
Is it, because I remember not that many years ago, I think it was maybe in the 1990s anyway, they totally rehabbed that tank. I remember being inside of it actually, and they had totally sandblasted it and recoated the whole thing, so. And I was just curious, is it very bad now inside, or is it okay? Do we know?
Structurally, it's pretty good. It just needs a total coating rehab at this
Okay.
point.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting being inside there with the scaffolding going up 80 feet in the air inside that tank. It was pretty amazing.
Yeah. Well, especially getting that scaffolding through the little.
Yeah, through the little hole.
A
about
little
that
small
big.
one.
Exactly.
so have they finally come up with a reasonable coding now to work with that?
Yes.
Because I remember when at Hoover, it seems like there was 10 years or so where they went away from the tar and they were trying to come up with a good environmentally friendly.
Fiberglass or a poly type lining or
Most of
something.
them are epoxy now.
Yeah, because
Epoxy, yeah.
if I remember at Hoover, they had gone through a couple different cycles on the spillway over the intake
The penstocks.
penstocks,
yeah.
and that it wasn't working. So so now hopefully we got something that will last longer now. So you
Well,
heard?
But the 10 years is about it, regardless of what you put on it.
Well, the tar, I think, used to
15.
last longer than that, I
Well,
think,
it
but
has-
can't
yeah,
do that.
but- yeah, but you
You
get
can't
people
use
sick,
it.
though.
No,
Well,
I'm just,
they have active cathodic protection on them, don't they? I mean, ones that are actually inducing electrical current, I mean, to counter that.
So
I know
that tank,
The West tank did, if I remember right,
Yep.
so.
in addition to recoating that east tank, it'll need a new cathodic protection system also.
Okay.
There's one in there, but it's deteriorated. Parts of it have come off, so it just needs a new.
Is that O&M or is that capital improvement?
If we rehab that tank,
I mean, if you replace, you're talking about replacing anodes or what? Is it O&M or is it CIP to work on the cathodic protection?
in my opinion, it just needs a whole new system.
Okay.
It's,
So that sounds like CIP then.
yeah.
yeah, well, so right now, we're showing 472 available for that. So with what you're talking about, and that when I'm assuming the reservoir improvements, that was for everything that was being studied. So I'm assuming that's going to come back probably in a future CIP to,
Yes, yeah.
okay, because it's not in this current one. We'll talk about that in the next agenda item, I guess, but,
No, to refurbish that tank will be on the order of 1.5 million.
that's just the one tank.
Correct. But we did get an estimate of replacing it entirely. That would be $3.5 million.
Any other questions on the reservoir?
No.
Nope.
Good.
Okay, thank you.
W2104. That's ongoing, same status, no change.
And so we've replaced a few though already? That's the butterfly valve, right? The butterfly valve, so some of them have been replaced? Okay. And that's something that's probably then, because that looked to be finished by the end of the fiscal year, is that gonna probably have to go a little longer?
End of fiscal year.
Yeah, I guess, okay. Thank you.
Water meter replacements, 2201. That's ongoing, and that'll be finished by the end of the fiscal year.
And that was just a test program, correct? Basically a test, that was the grant we'd gotten and sort of using it somewhat as a test, because that was just a small amount of the meters overall, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I believe 30% of the fleet was not totally with these funds, but that's how much have been replaced with the AMR style, not the AMI, but the radio read. And so we are still working with the Bureau of Reclamation to get those funds. Now, a new grant has come out that's similar, but it's a $100,000 match for a $200,000 total project. So we are looking at that as a possibility.
So is that something that might happen that might be added to the capital plan later? Because it's not, I believe, again, I guess we can talk about the capital plan, but I don't think it's in there right now. So that one's not ongoing, it just matters. So now it's a matter of what we do with grants or what we do with something else. So I'll talk about that in the next agenda item, thanks.
So is the goal to have 100% of the water meters replaced, what, in 2 years, 3 years, something like that? The residential meters, anyway?
I think like kind of over a 5-year period to get all on AMR
Okay,
and then look to transition to the AMI technology.
okay. Because I know a lot of them are out there already. I know mine's a new electronic one, so.
Thanks.
Okay, the ARV and backflow replacements, 2301, in process. And that'll be by the end of the fiscal year also. $2303, the covered parking, that's over at the shops, and that's an extension of the existing awning over the vehicles because they want to get some of the materials under cover also. And we should have a quote for that by the end of next week.
Can I go back? We had the 2302, that was the golf course estate service. Has that been closed out? It's not on your list. It was on the list prior, or it was on another list.
Yes, I believe that's been closed out, completed.
Completed.
Part of you're talking about golf course estates, which was part of copper service replacement?
Well, it was copper service, and I think it was also the it's where most of the meters went too, because was there 90-some meters or 70-some meters that were installed in that
92
area?
meters. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the, okay, because it's just, I guess it'd be nice if we'd have had at least, because that would, we've only had one closeout was on the water, that would have been a closeout to show that was closed out.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting work done. There's some flexibility with keeping certain projects kind of ongoing to add funds to them, over time, but we're getting a lot of work done.
No, that's understandable, I'm just trying to follow what we have and what we got. Okay.
2305, the obsolete fire hydrant replacements. That continues progress.
They still have a pretty active fire hydrant test program where they go through and exercise all those hydrants on a regular basis.
Yeah, that's my understanding, yes.
So most of the ones that are out there are still working, but they're just getting old probably then, so,
Yes.
oh, that's good.
Okay, 2306, here's your 14-inch line to the solar fields. So that's moved out to 25.
And that's just the PRVs, so.
Yes. 2307, PRVs for Twin 5. Our water modeling is in process for that, and in conjunction with the El Dorado Valley water modeling and the other raw water modeling we're doing. So it's not yet for sure that we're going to need PRVs at Twin 5.
Okay. So the twin, so we're talking at the towers? Is that what, I'm trying to remember what that exactly was, when you're saying Twin 5.
Those are the lower two underground reservoirs, aren't they, up on Canyon Road?
Yep.
The lower two?
The underground.
Okay.
So we know we need PRVs out in the valley, but it's not yet obvious that we need them right up at Twin 5.
So right now, the 750 is just a placeholder, just in case
Yes.
we need it. Okay, thank you.
$2308, large meter replacement. That one's affected by the new St. Jude's project. So we're not going to firm that up until we really get final information on the St. Jude's facility.
So the large meters, I get, make sure then, what's that associated, is it associated with a few projects or several projects, or? Because you're saying it's with St. Jude's, but when you think of large meters, I guess I would think of any of the large
Well, they're
meters.
building kind of a
Yeah.
little mini subdivision there in St. Jude's, aren't they? And so this is going to be just basically feeding that.
Yes, and so that affects the plan that they had for this large meter.
Oh, so it's just, it was one large meter for that big project? Okay. Thank you.
W2309, the HMWA and SNWA casing, that project is finished. So we're going to show that closed.
Okay.
What is that again? SNWA and Southern Nevada Water Authority, and what's the other one? Casing.
The casing, that related to the trailhead parking lot area, that part right off the highway.
Oh, okay. All right, just a little, okay. Yeah, kind of a small deal then.
Was that part of that flood control issue, or is that separate?
Yes,
Okay, so
It's-
that's
so
what they
they-
were trying
so
to
they-
put, they found where the tank, the line was higher than they thought it was?
Exactly.
Okay, so that's sort of an ongoing, because because the Southern Nevada Water Authority, my understanding is going to move the pipe or do
No.
something?
Nope, nope. They were really concerned that this work might disturb it, but they were able to successfully fix the casing. So the line is good and the drainage is all good.
Okay, so
It's a non-issue, basically.
Yeah.
That's good.
so flood control has also finished their aspect of it?
Yes.
Okay,
That's good. That could have been a big deal.
yeah.
.2401, that's another PRV situation. Again, the downhill part of town by the airport where the pressures are getting high. So we just finished some modeling, estimating to tell us what we need to go get for a PRV for down there by the airport.
Okay.
And again, just keeping track of our list, there's where our 2312 appears again. For the wastewater part of that funding for ABC Park,
Okay.
again, closed. S2004, Headworks upgrade. That involves buying a new screen. And we just placed the order for that. The vendor name is Hydrodyne Engineering. But then meanwhile, we also have our consultant doing an installation package. So we'll hire a contractor to actually put it in at the Headworks once it arrives. And delivery time is about a year.
Okay.
This project initially was going to be a grant, and we needed to move on it kind of quickly to make sure that we were able to get what we needed done. So we don't have it kind of reflected here in the 5-year, but the non-competitive EPA grant we are going to look to repurpose to other parts of the waste collection system.
Okay, so that one's not going under the grant anymore, and we're hoping to use the grant somewhere else.
Correct.
In fact, that'll be further down on the list to S2402. That is where that grant is going to be applied. That's further down the list. 2402 becomes the project using the grant.
Didn't we get $1 million? I thought there was $1 million grant or something we had.
So it is, it's just not shown, for that 300,000 is our match.
You have to match the grant.
Yep.
Okay, so we're doing 300, and so instead of $1 million, so it's 300 what we're doing, and they're matching it with 300,
With $1 million,
or with $1 million.
yes.
Okay, so that's where it's, okay. Thank you.
That replaces the screen assembly or the commutator, is the screen that's next to the commutator? Or?
If you're familiar with that screw assembly, that's what's coming out.
Okay, all right.
Okay, S2103, that's the project that mostly funded that Foothills sewer line replacement. Over at Foothill, we had those dramatic pictures of the deteriorated sewer pipe over there.
Okay,
So we finished. And that came out of this line item.
So it turned out to be was it a big job, or did it turn out to be easier than what they thought it was going to be?
It was not easier
It
than we
looked
thought.
pretty bad.
Yeah. Overall, it went very well. There's only two concerns, which are, and we knew this up front. Pulling, we did a pipe burst. Howard, are you familiar with pipe bursting? Okay. So this was a 1,000-foot section. We did the burst, and it worked out pretty well. But we knew that there was the potential for a couple of low spots. And so that did turn out. We've got two low points, one of which we think we're probably going to have to dig up.
And raise it?
Yep, and lift it up. The other low spot, we're just going to keep an eye on.
So,
The low spot is not very deep, so it shouldn't be a difficult project.
That'd be good.
now is that what that's before you can close it out, then is this also included in another project, or you just have to do some of the other additional work you're talking about?
Some of both, actually. As far as another project, yes, Park Street. If you recall the work that needs to be done on Park Street, that'll be from this line item also.
So is there enough money there, or is there
Yes.
additional money for the okay.
Is the line on Park Street, is it failing? Is that what you're saying? The sewer line on Park Street?
We don't really describe it as failing, do
Is
we?
it a clay pipe or is it something newer?
It's very close to the water service.
Oh,
It's right on top of the water service, so there's that. And I'm not exactly sure of the material, but we're looking to reroute and abandon that kind of parallel feed.
and it actually runs in Park Street?
Yes.
There is a concern of it failing, especially if any work is needed nearby with the other utilities.
Yeah.
So that's how that got on the project list. Uh, 2201, lift station number 1 improvements. So that's how we're funding the current odor control project. And some detail on that are the dry scrubber that we were talking about. That should be on site by the end of November. And then it needs installation. Some air piping, and there's a small motor that needs continuous power. So we'll hook that up, and then we'll see how that does with controlling the odor situation at that lift station.
And does that close that out, or is there anything else that has to be done with lift station 1? It's just the odor control, or is there additional work?
The odor control was the top priority. And if that works as planned, then we're going to reevaluate how much of anything else needs to be done with lift station 1.
Okay.
We're also looking at plans to perhaps, and this is not on any project list yet, taking it out of service and transferring the main lift over to lift station 3. So we will have we'll get into detail on that in future meetings.
So you take it all the way to the top of the hill from 3 then, without any intermediates? Huh?
3 would have to be rebuilt.
Yeah. Well ahead.
That's just by way of conveying we definitely have plans for addressing lift station 1 however needed. There's also talk of the Adventure Center going in at the Chamber of Commerce building, which used to be the Nevada Welcome Center. If that facility develops and there's a decision that they just do not want that lift station there at all, we're already making plans of how to do that.
will the existing piping handle the head pressure in that from 3 all the way to the top of the hill?
At that point, it'll likely will still be effective, because at that point, the pressure will still relate to what's needed to go all the way. But it includes adding a second main as well.
Yeah.
That's more the concern, is having 2 mains going up the hill. And yes, then both of those would go all the way to lift station 3. But that is very future and very dependent on the other factors like the Welcome Center and odor control at the existing lift station 1. S2202, chlorine contact chamber. The chlorine contact chamber and the one right below it, the basin aeration lining. And then further down, chlorine generator. Those are all subject to what comes out of SNWA's wastewater reuse project. So depending on what they decide to do with reusing our wastewater, it'll affect these items. So these are on hold for now, pending the results of their current study.
Is the existing contact chamber in pretty good shape? Physically, it's holding up. The concrete is still good. It's not, the sewer water's not eating it up or anything like that, is it?
Correct.
Yeah, I was just
Yeah.
curious. I know it's kind of old, but it's been there a long time.
So I guess since the study, these are linked to the study, I think we can ask about this, the agenda item. Is there any time frame on their study? Are we looking at months or
Next April.
next April's when I think they'll have the study done? Okay.
Are there any ongoing progress meetings you're having with them?
Yes, there are. SNWA, the consultant they've hired, Henderson, Boulder City are the main participants in those update meetings. So that's 2202 and 2203 together. Those are both affected. 2301, that's lift station 3 improvements, which is the existing facility, not the future hypothetical project. Just at the existing facility as is, we're having a consultant study it because we think some electrical upgrades are needed. And there's also a decision will be needed of whether to put now there isn't a fence.
Is for future sabotage or something like that?
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
there haven't been any incidents. It doesn't attract much attention.
Who would want it?
2302, S2302. Rehabilitate sanitary sewer mains. We've identified about 10 places around town that need some refurbishment. And so we know the locations, and we'll start design on those for probably a contractor helping us with those.
Is it old transite pipe, or is it poly, or you know what what's wrong with it? Is it just worn out?
Part of it is the lines, in some cases, are just too small,
Oh, really?
and they cause backups. And intrusion. We know there's intrusion trouble in some of them. S2303, that's at the wastewater treatment plant. And that one is in process. That will be finished by the end of the fiscal year.
And does it look like the 38's going to cover it, or is it going to be, because I remember before we were hoping it wasn't going to be that much for the 75,000. I just didn't know what supplies and everything like that.
At this point, no change.
So, okay.
S2304, Veterans Park wet well, that's been moved out.
To what year is that in?
Yeah, I don't have the year that we've moved that out to.
Yeah, I don't see it here on the, right now it's outside of the 5-year plan.
That's what I was seeing, so I was just curious. Okay, thank you.
S2305, that's the chlorine generator that's a part of the contact chamber and aeration system that's all subject to what happens with the SNWA study.
It's in Station 1.
The chlorine generator?
It's down here, I see what you're saying.
Yep.
Yeah, got it, okay.
At the treatment plant.
Right.
S2306, that's also the wastewater treatment plant. That kind of relates to the additional shower. So those are all being done, and that'll be finished by the end of the fiscal year also. (2307) SCADA improvements. So we're working on that. The first step of that was installing cellular modems to help with the wastewater SCADA. And we're also looking at upgrading the server also.
Curious on those, with the new fiber that you put in the static lines, have you been able to tie the substations and whatnot into that fiber system? I think is that still an ongoing deal?
For the substations, we can talk about that. This is aimed at the water system.
Wastewater, so we don't have any fiber going down there. So.
Right, right.
Okay.
And if you want to mention about the,
Yeah, we don't have the fiber linked up.
Right.
So the last piece would be kind of getting the shared line on Buchanan, a buy-in project with NV Energy to get,
Oh, really?
you know, that would loop us, I believe.
Yeah, that's
So-
that's true. So would you be looking at replacing the static line on top?
Yes.
And Nevada Power and NV Energy would basically partner in that deal then.
We haven't begun discussions with them on that, but, you know, that would provide a fiber loop.
Yeah, that would be
for the substation. So something we're looking at.
S2401, that's lift station 4. And that involves whether we need to put a backup generator there.
What for? Just for SCADA or something, or?
to keep that lift station operating if there's an outage. And that's in planning. And S2402, sanitary sewer upgrade, as we mentioned earlier, that's the one where we will apply the EPA grant, if you will. And being a part of a federal project means we have to follow the NEPA process. So that's the stage we're in right now in that project. We have to file a NEPA report first.
Yeah, it can be lengthy.
Everything about the landfill is in process. We've got initial draft plans, the phasing plan, the road design and fencing, how we're going to phase in road versus the fence. All of these are in process as it relates to the expansion.
Now, is it also going to be renamed to a basin? You've got fence and rebasin, is that what I remember from last time? Because we moved the money from 25 to 24, which was fencing and basin, or is it just basin now?
It's road and basin.
Okay, okay. So do we still have to do more fencing, or is it just road and basin?
We would still have to do fencing eventually
Oh,
for the perimeter of the property. So we're looking to kind of postpone that until maybe 10 years.
Okay, so right now, the basin is, if I understand correctly, we're trying to figure out what it would take for a flood event to make sure that it won't affect the landfill. Is that what I understood? That's one
Yeah,
of
so
the
we don't
main
get
things
run
for
off the property. And we've got that.
Water stays on site. doesn't
Yes, sir.
Down to the river.
And there's more than one fence involved. So this is talking about the furthest boundary perimeter fence, which is very far from the current operational area. And that's the fence that Joe's describing as we're trying to put that off as long as possible. The road probably needs to go in, basin, and hopefully the fence last.
But we do, so there was fencing done that was for the I-11, did we do that? Because I thought that was a concern. Was that completed, I thought?
So that's the other fence that gets referred to. So it's good to keep track of which fence we're talking about. The furthest outer perimeter fence, that's furthest away and we hope is the furthest schedule-wise. But where they're actually operating, the small area within our huge total land area, that part does need a fence. And that one we do keep active. So that one, we sometimes call it the operational fence.
Oh, okay. And is that up to date, or is that just a sort of an ongoing?
It's kind of both. For example, we just recently put in an operational fence that goes all the way around where they're currently working.
Okay.
And that was in conjunction with the state health department, actually.
Yeah, I remember that was, we had concerns with that. That was-
Okay. So that fence is in, and that should have about a 5-year life of where they're currently working.
Okay.
Then at that point, it might need to be moved out a little more.
There's still 5 years of available land that can be used before we have to do that, though. 5 years' worth of available space to put the garbage in there.
Yes,
Before we have to-
of where they currently project
Right.
where they will be working for the next 5 years.
Right, okay.
Correct.
So we got some time.
That is different than the overall life of the entire landfill, which is actually decades.
Right.
So we endeavor to not be confused of which fence and which land area we talk about versus this work. This work is aimed at the full life of the entire landfill.
Okay, thank you.
Good, good. So we're good on that list. Other questions?
No, good job.
Yep,
This has
thank-
been
thank you very much, yes,
informative. I really
that's-
appreciate this. This has been good.
Yeah, because in the staff report, it was stated that to enlighten us more on this, and that was very helpful. So
Yeah,
that's,
that really helped.
that was one of the reasons we ask a lot more questions, so we can try to keep track of, it's been a little while since we've understood all the projects, and so this is very helpful.
Yeah. And by our next meetings, there'll be more of these that will be closed out.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. I greatly appreciate the time taken
Okay.
to do that. Anything
Yeah,
else?
yeah, any questions? Yeah,
Okay.
good, good. Joe, return the meeting back to you.
Yeah, thank you, Bill.
So I guess we just get an update on ARPA, maybe? That would be, that we mentioned earlier. So if Carol has any information, is that okay? Because it's
Questions
ongoing,
related to ongoing? Sure.
still ongoing.
I think that's
Or
a-
whoever, sorry.
Sorry. So ARPA, there was a total of $10.1 million designated for utilities, and 6.4 was for water, and 3.7 was for wastewater. There's 1.9 million still available that's still being used as not encumbered, and 1.5 in wastewater. And as projects come along that are ARPA, eligible for ARPA, the utilities funds being reimbursed. So we're absolutely positive that will be spent before '26, way before.
And is that, is it in the budget that it's showing that it's covered, or is it after the fact that it's showing that it's, or because I know in the city manager report, there's an ARPA that says it just says how much was spent, but it doesn't say what project. And I don't know if it's showing.
It doesn't necessarily matter which project, it's
That-
just
that-
going
that part I
into the utilities fund as projects that are eligible are completed, that money is going into the utility fund.
Okay, that's true, just long, yeah, so you were replenishing the cash, so that's helpful.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
That-
So we should see then an increase in the cash fund for water and sewer at different times.
As the money's being spent every month, as the money's being spent, it's being put in there.
In the water and sewer cash? Okay, and that's in the city manager report? Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, was there any other questions? on that?
I'm good.
Good.
Okay. Any other questions on the ongoing?
Nope.
Joe, was there anything else that you had for the ongoing?
No more comments on the ongoing. Just wanted to ask if we could take maybe a quick recess before we move on to the next agenda item, if that's
Sure,
acceptable?
sure.
Okay,
You want to
just
take
a
a
quick 5-minute?
5-minute break?
Yes,
Sure.
okay, thank you.
2, Joe?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so we will close out agenda item number 2 and go to agenda item number 3, which is the 5-year capital, correct?
Right, sure.
Thanks.
You got it?
Thank you. So I guess, Joe, I'll let you start that one again, if that's okay?
Sure, so we've got a printout of the spreadsheet. It's a little bit enlarged for your convenience. Okay, so starting with electric. This doesn't have a project number yet, but the request title is Primary Feeder Replacement. And right now, we've got 2.25 million budgeted from FY '27 through FY '29. The idea with this project is to kind of put a placeholder for primary feeders that need to be replaced but haven't been identified as a specific circuit. We're going to be doing a number of circuit renames as we get into the conversion to the 12.5 kV system voltage. But that's what we've got outside of the rate study as kind of a placeholder. So I'm happy to answer any questions on that.
So, on those primary feeders, are you starting to lose cable? Is that the problem, or are they just overloaded, or are they?
We are, and so looking at Circuit 54, I know that was mentioned before, that goes up Darlene to Sandra and kind of down in the Girl Street. So
Okay,
during the peak season this year, we had 10 days over 110 degrees, and kind of our longest outage that we had was in that area. And so we had both transformer kind of failure and cable failure.
cable,
So-
and you may not know this, but I know that years ago that the crosslink, the XLP, the crosslink polyethylene insulation was failing pretty regularly from treeing issues. And then we went to EPR, ethylene propylene rubber insulation, and that was supposedly not to have issues. I'm curious to know if it was the EPR cable or the XLP cable. Maybe you don't know, but
I don't have that off the top of my head, but I could look into that.
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned EPR and
EPR,
XLP.
that means ethylene propylene rubber. And that cable was a cable that wouldn't develop trees, they called it, in the electrical. And then the crosslink had a problem with that. And so I don't know if you're still using the EPR or the XLP, but I would just be curious to know what was starting to fail, because supposedly that stuff was supposed to really be failure resistant, I know.
I made a note to look into that to see if we
Yeah, I'd
have
be
any of the
curious-
XLP
curious to know
failures.
if it's still holding up, because that supposed to be was the good stuff that was supposed to last forever almost, it'd be interesting to know. Of course, nothing lasts forever, but if it's not stressed too badly, then it should be okay. So
I think in some cases it's circuit configuration.
that could be how they're loaded up. Yeah, if you're pushing them, then they're going to be in trouble. So
And when we do restoration procedures, sometimes we're not getting back to,
so you still have overloaded sections where you could be shifting that load to a better cable. That's
that's right.
good point.
So any questions on this project? It's generally scoped. The idea and kind of my thought process, similar to the other utility funds, water and wastewater with copper services and with the sanitary sewer rehabilitation. This would be kind of your backbone general replacement and making a placeholder there for the electrical system. So is there any questions on that? Any feedback on that? You guys okay with that?
Yep.
Okay. All right. The next project is, it doesn't have a project number yet, meter upgrades. And this is a continuation of kind of what we had renamed the three-phase meter, commercial meter upgrade project. And what we've got planned for this, $900,000 over FY '27 through FY '29, totaling $900,000. So again, this is the meter upgrades, shifting us towards the AMI trying to get, take care of some of the issues we've had with the non-solid state meters and them kind of losing their memory. We've been able to do a lot of replacements, saving money, in-house soldering of the battery that goes in there. But that's what we've got planned outside of the rate study. So any questions or comments on this project?
So probably then you're just, like, again, you're doing a placeholder, and then probably once you get to that point, you'll see if that's a maintenance going forward, or if you need all that or not.
Yeah, I think kind of the feedback I've gotten, if the meter is being kind of replaced or upgraded, we've got to account for that in the CIP program, and we can't just use the O&M. So if we're going to replace it in kind, like with exactly what was there before, it's very rare that we're going to have, that there's not going to be some sort of change and some sort of, upgrade with the technology or the ability for it to convert to AMI. So that's why we've got it in the CIP.
Okay, yeah, I guess maybe that's what was just making sure of, because I think the old meters lasted a long time, my understanding.
Yeah, I guess I was thinking about that, the batteries probably just for in extended outages to keep the program active,
That's correct.
so you don't lose that when you lose power to the electronic meter, so
Right.
that would make sense. But do you think that new lithium batteries would last a lot longer than that? I mean, well, maybe 10, 15 years, I guess they probably start wearing out, so.
It's just the design of the memory unit within the device. So I've encountered similar issues with other types of equipment of a similar nature
Right,
in the power plant. If it was out for a longer period of time, you would have to reload all of its memory.
right.
For meters, that's, a challenge. We're not wanting to
It's odd that you would
estimate
have to,
usage.
it's odd you'd have to unsolder them. You think they would just have just replacement batteries if they're going to wear out,
Yeah, the replacement meters that we found are of the solid state design to where that problem has been engineered out.
No, that's good, yeah.
But that's what we've encountered.
Mhm.
Okay, the next project on the list for electric is to replace Unit 602. So this is a vehicle for the division, and the utility fund, being an enterprise fund, has to cover all of the vehicle expenses and plan for that. We're not in the VERF, the Vehicle Equipment Replacement Fund. So the plan for that, FY25, $150,000 is allocated.
Is that for just like this, that's not the big heavy line truck, that's just the
Service
utility
truck.
truck for street lighting and stuff like that?
Yes.
Yeah, because would it be helpful, I think it'd be helpful for us if they could have a vehicle in there or something, because Unit 602 doesn't mean anything, hardly to
Well,
anybody.
the price indicated is probably a light line truck,
Well, even just vehicles, because just understanding that's a vehicle
Yeah.
instead of unit.
that's true.
I was thinking it was some type of aspect.
Yeah, we can add that.
Because I think in the water and stuff, you have done something like that. You've said truck or something like that. Indicated more it was a vehicle of some type.
Sure. I could see that. Is that a breaker at substation 6 or?
Right, exactly.
Right. That's good feedback. Okay, the next project, Electric 24-101. This is the distribution pole replacement. So we've got $900,000 planned FY25 and FY26. And this is a continuation of the ongoing agreement that we've got with Summit. Used to be PAR. They had internal reorganization and changed their name. They're out of Utah now instead of California. Same company, same crew. But that's ongoing pole replacement. And so this is kind of part of the assessment that was done. We're replacing the poles that are in the worst condition first, ones that need to be replaced. And you'll see a number of those in town that have been done. And so that's a continuation of that project.
Yeah, I think some of our questions stemmed from before you were here, when they had done a aerial survey of the poles. And so they had it down to, I believe it was like, I thought it was around $1 million or so for everything.
Okay.
So now we're looking at, what we're looking at, I think we're looking at almost $3 million in addition to what was stated, 2-3 years ago?
Yeah, because I thought that they were gonna be pretty much done by now, and then apparently you're still doing an assessment and seeing poles that still need to be replaced, which makes sense, so.
There's some that are being kind of rotated in that are of worse condition than others. We're also if a pole is, if we lose a pole, like there was a fire and an outage at, I want to say it was Avenue I, and that pole replacement, that's covered out of this CIP too.
But most
So-
of this is labor, not, because the poles were purchased, if I understand correctly. Those have been
Yes.
purchased.
Yes,
And so most of this is labor
that's right.
for the replacements.
Mhm.
Okay.
But we've very close to used what we had allocated for, I think we went close to being a little bit over using some O&M for last fiscal year. We've got a not to exceed $1 million with Summit on a fiscal year basis. So that's where we have the 900,000 set aside for the CIP, and then the other funds set aside for, like, if there's an outage, and we did mobilize them during the outage at the end of July, and used O&M funds for that.
Okay. Now, are you looking at needing to buy any additional poles, or are we good there?
Not at this time. Yeah, we're okay on material of poles, so I will do a follow-up assessment and see, if there's more that we need to get, but at this point, that's just labor and equipment. So. Okay, if there's no further questions on that, the next project, Substation 6 upgrade. That's partially in FY '26, and the rest is in FY '27 for a total of $2.5 million. And so this particular upgrade is, what we're going to do is take likely the transformers of Substation 5, make sure that they're able to be reused and, tested appropriately, and physically move those to Substation 6. And then some minor modifications, not a ton of extra design work. And that's what this project is. So it's not the complete substation rebuild that you see for the other substations 4, 3, and 5, but that's going between fiscal years 26 and 27.
So I'm curious, are the transformers, do they have problems? Are they worn out? I mean, when the station was first built, it was one of the newer stations. There was a couple of Virginia transformers, they called them,
Yeah.
and they were junk. And so I know they got replaced probably 15, 16 years ago, maybe 14 years ago. And so I'm curious, are the existing transformers now having problems? Because they're not that old.
No, it's not that they don't have problems. It's that we're looking, it's part of the conversion from the 4160 voltage to the 12.5 kV.
So you
And then
need to
just-
upgrade the size of the transformers.
The size,
Because I
right.
think they were probably 10 MVAs to begin with, and you're going to go to what, the 20s now or something like that?
What's at Substation 5, yeah.
Okay, yeah, because those are 12, 16, 20s, so yeah,
Yep.
it'll be a 20 MVA. Yeah.
And just so you know, the Substation 3 transformers, the new transformers that we're going to have, eliminating subs 1 and 2
Right,
at the 55-degree C rise are 26, 34.7, and 43.3 MVA.
right, they're big.
Yeah, and we believe with this build-out would accommodate any future needs.
Oh, yeah, because the town only has a peak of, 50 MVA, and
Yes,
if you'll have 200 plus MVA transformer capacity, so.
yeah. It's hard to predict what, future development needs are, and I understand there's always sensitivity around that regarding utilities. So this is not only just for the conversion, but planning for the future.
Right, okay.
And I know it's going further out, but since things got shifted pretty much about a year, it looks like, would it be feasible to move that to 28? Because you're not going to start 5 until 27. So you won't even be able to move your transformers unless it's a lot shorter period, but it seems like it'd be safer to move it to 28 instead of, and that also would help reduce the cost.
And that would buy you some time, because probably 6 doesn't need them at this point.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea,
Yeah,
if that's
probably
something
would.
that you'd like me to kind of do here, and.
Yeah, you might want to take a look at it, because it doesn't sound like 6 really needs it. I know they're fairly new transformers down there, and they can't be overloaded, because Hemingway Valley hasn't grown that much, so.
Because I believe in the rate study, 27, if the power rate doesn't go down, then we're still in you're actually going to have to increase the rate in 27. And so if we can help avoid that, I think it'd be helpful.
So I'll go ahead and make note of shifting FY 26 and 27 for substation 6 upgrade to FY 28 and 29.
I think, yeah.
I think you could
that-
easily do that. You might need to check and make sure, but right off hand, it sounds like it would make a lot of sense to do that.
Okay,
Thank you.
yeah, no problem. Okay, so the next project, feeder 14 to 24 tie replacement, that we have in FY 26, 2.6 million. Again, the circuits are going to be renamed, so it's not necessarily going to be 14 and 24, but it's likely going to be some sort of tie between substations 3 and 4 when they're converted to the 12.5 kV. So, but this is at this point, that's what they're named.
Okay.
So-
And as you said before, that's a major part of the 4K to 12K.
It is a
Conversion.
big piece of that reliability component, yes.
Okay.
Okay, so moving to 4 kV substation removals. Right now, we've got that starting in FY '28, budgeted for $805,255. So that's for the decommissioning of substations 1 and 2. This, of course, is dependent on the overall system voltage conversion project. So kind of once we're done with 4, that's when we think that we can start doing that. And we've got substation 4 rebuilt, completing in FY '26. So that gives us 2 years. I understand. So we got 5 and 27. So there is a little bit of overlap. So we've got it budgeted for FY '28 in hopes that we could start in FY '28 and then kind of continue in FY '29. But I understand when you're looking at the plan, it's as aggressive as it can be if we're doing a substation at a time.
Well,
So-
and basically, they're going to be out of service, so if you had to delay it a year or 2 or 3, it's not going to hurt anything, because you're not relying on anything. It's just, they just need to be taken out.
Sure. So the key was to make sure that we're not holding up the conversion project from that. So
Right.
that's why we have a little sooner than when you might expect. Okay, the next project for FY '25, substation 2 to substation 3 feeder tie replacement. This we have budgeted $907,500. And again, that's, to tie substations 2 and 3.
I'm curious about that too, because the new transmission line on Adams Boulevard basically rebuilt those 2 underbuilt circuits between those 2 stations. Do you have another tie someplace else that's going to tie those together? Because right now, there were 2 overhead lines, I think they're 556 conductors now, which the others are all 336, they're much larger conductors. On that not new pole line they just built on Adams Boulevard, ties those 2 stations together. And I'm trying to think where that's at. I mean, it's obviously out there someplace, but I just can't figure out where it would be.
Yeah, those are going to be the underground.
Oh, they
Kinda
will be
ties-
underground, so
yeah.
you're going to be trenching all the way out there?
Not trenching the whole way, but it's ties between the recloser circuits. So it's linking some of those.
'Cause right now, the
Those
underground
subs
goes
together.
as far as Avenue G and then goes up Avenue G that comes out of Sub 2, but then from there, you're going to be maybe conduit from Avenue G all the way out to the end of Adams there.
that would be the
Okay,
possibility.
So that could explain that kind of
Yep.
money. Yeah, it's a lot of money.
Now, are those two self-contained, or are they sort of in sync with the substations also, the way the substations are being redone?
So if you're talking about the critical path, like is it dependent?
Sort of time frame, because since 4 is probably going to be moved a little bit, does substation 1 to substation 2, would that be something to think about moving, or is that something you need the money, or at least partial the money to get everything started, or you will be able to do that in fiscal year '25?
Are you talking about feeder 14 to 24?
No, substation, I thought we were sort of talking about substation 2 and 1 together, so we're talking about, what is it?
Substation 2 and 3 feeder tie replacement?
Yeah, substation
Yep.
2 to 3 and substation 1 to 4.
Yep.
So, so the substation 2 to 3, so we're gonna be replacing 3, but we're doing something different, but now we're going from substation 1 to substation 4. And does that have any link to the substation,
These should be
upgrade?
independent. No,
Independent, okay.
they should be independent. It's going to be, some cable replacement, and we're looking at circuit configuration to make sure that we're positioned, in the best spot
Right.
for the substation rebuild. But I wouldn't say that those projects are dependent on each other in the critical path.
So you don't, so that you're hoping that you can get to those in '25 then?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to substation 5, transformer foundation replacement. That's going to be the last substation that we would rebuild, and we've got that budgeted for $4.5 million in fiscal year '27. So a lot of this really depends on, what bids we get back from the project for substation 3, but that's our plan, and our hope is to continue on with an additional interlocal agreement with the Colorado River Commission. It's been working well so far, so we're hopeful that we'll be able to continue on with them.
Well, two things. First off, I guess maybe we've discussed it in the past, but we're not doing a major upgrade to 5, right? So why is it the same cost as 3 and 4? It's not the same upgrade.
We are doing the same upgrade to 5. So we're going to be standardizing our transformer specifications to that kind of what I mentioned. And so 5's kind of a unique design. It's not, it doesn't have a tie and a tie breaker and a tie bus. So
Well,
it's,
I think it does, but you're also going to be almost doubling the transformer size too.
Yeah,
So
right.
the bus will
We're going
probably
to need to
be
replace
replaced.
all the bus,
The 12 kV bus will need to be replaced.
Okay.
tie breaker.
Yeah.
So that's what's different
There's
than
a tie
what
between
we had
them,
talked
yeah.
about a year or two ago. That's why I was just trying to understand it.
Yeah, so the idea that we're attempting to employ is kind of have a single design asterisk substation 6, because substation 6 is going to be a little bit smaller. We still want to keep the design the same with a normally open tiebreaker, model the way that the system is basically distributing the energy. So we've got Meade as one source, we've got Boulder City Tap as the additional source. Half the town is fed from Meade, half the town is fed from Tap. We're normally open, but we have the ability to reconfigure, and we're designed such that the entire town can be fed from Meade, or the entire town can be fed from Tap. So that's the same idea that we're employing down to the substation level, is that, there's a normally open tiebreaker. Each transformer will be equipped and have the capacity to carry the entire substation, and we believe that with, good maintenance will keep these assets for a long time.
Now then, so again, we've got a lead time for transformers and we have construction work. So could that be split like it was originally, and would it still start then in '27 and construction be in '28? So would it be feasible to split it again like it was just before? So you'd have 200,000 for the transformers in '27, and then you'd have the 2.5 in '28 for construction?
I'll have to check and see if we'll have to do two interlocals for that, but my preference would be to leave it even though we wouldn't spend the money, because we encumbered $4.5 million when we did the interlocal with the Colorado River Commission. So it's my intent that we're going to do an interlocal agreement for the entire project amount.
So CRC had to have all that money up front, even though we're talking years out?
No, they're not getting the money up front. We're just encumbering the money to make sure that it's set aside for that project.
I guess
So-
it's because you've got a large amount in 27. If we move 6 out, then maybe it's not so bad. If we move 6 out to 28 and 29, then 27 isn't as bad as it currently is right now with the 7.9. So I guess once that's moved, then you'd be down to 5 something because of with the 2.4 being moved over.
So it limits how we can manage the project. So I understand, like, for cash flow purposes, like, it makes sense, but budgeting for that amount in that fiscal year, splitting it out, it limits what we can do for that project, even though it's likely going to take 18 months to 24 months to have the transformers built.
Well, again, if we move 6 over, then it's doable. Otherwise, you've got a really large increase in 27, and that's your next rate study, and so it's really going to be if the cost of power is still high at that point, that's going to definitely be a pretty large increase. So it's just a matter of if there's something we can do. But if we do move 6, substation 6, if 6 gets moved over, then it's not as bad. I'm looking at the bottom line of 7.9, so you take the 2.4 out of that, and it's not as much of a issue in 2027. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, so that sounds like a good plan to do, is to move that, like we discussed, from
And then just-
2029 and not touch 5 would be my preference.
I think that 6, you could probably move that out fairly easily, because there shouldn't be enough capacity to handle that, plus the 3 load in the short term, and then eventually, I can see where you want to go with that, but I think there should be plenty of capacity in that substation 6.
Yes, no, I agree.
And then the last question, then I guess, so with your new, trying to get it all squared away, is 5 have to be done right after 4, or is there a little bit of leeway if you had to?
It's in the critical path for the conversion project,
Okay.
so it's just kind of when we want to get it done. I would like to get it done immediately after 4.
So you want 5, is it 5 needs to be done before you can convert everything over, so that you just have
Yes.
the security that you need?
Yep.
Is it safety issues and stuff, everything done?
Yes,
And then also, I'm assuming if we can get the golf course, if the land is sold around the BC golf course, then that would probably be an additional load on 5 also.
yes,
So with all that happen, okay, I'm just trying to understand. So right now, we don't have to make it, but knowing that for the future, that's something we don't want to necessarily move out. 6, as Ned has said, has some flexibility, but 3, 4, and 5, because originally 5 had some flexibility, I understood, but now since you're tying all 3 together, if I understand, so to speak, you've got
Yeah.
3, 4, and 5 that you want similar, now they're it's more of a critical path than 5 was on before. And so that's what I'm trying to understand and make sure. So now it's you want to keep it in that area as much as that time frame as best as possible.
yeah, and what that will do is it'll allow us to strategically place the circuits that, in the shortest distance possible to, keep our voltage as good as possible, and there may be some configuration changes once we have kind of 5 completed, where parts of town are fed from what, and we'll be in a position to have that with the ties in place.
Okay. I don't believe that had been passed along to the committee before, so I appreciate
Yeah.
the information to clarify.
So are most of your feeder ties now, are they the 1,000 MCM cable, the million stuff?
Yes, that's my
Okay,
understanding.
that's smart, yeah. 'Cause
Yeah.
they were, typically it was always, used to be 350, then it was 500, now you're going to the 1,000, which is really good, so.
Yep.
A lot of capacity on that cable, so.
Thank you.
So on my notes, I've got move-in substation 6 out 2 years. Any other comments or changes to electric before we move on to wastewater?
So the 4 rebuild, that's just something we want to keep that in place, so that's, we want to order the transformers, and we're hoping to start in fiscal year '26 for '25, for substation 4. Because we
Yes.
hadn't talked about that as waiting to move on, so that's fine.
So, yeah, since we're doing the procurement through the Colorado River Commission, at least on substation 3, we'll need another interlocal, but it's structured such that we can add to it, or kind of easily do an additional one. So, that would be the goal, is to get the transformers on order and then have that be kind of part of the critical path, so we could really start, in the beginning of '26, FY '26 for 4. Okay, if there's no other comments or questions on moving to wastewater, first project we have is a sanitary sewer upgrade. And that we've got $410,000 budgeted over $70,000 in FY '25 and $340,000 in FY '26. So this is a continuation of what's kind of needed out there in the system.
Is that 400,000? It looks like you're in FY '27, '28, '29 for 400,000.
I've got $70,000 in FY '25 and $340,000 in FY '26. Oh, I'm looking at I need another line there. Yep. Yep, thank you.
Yep.
Yep, you're absolutely right. So this is similar to the other kind of primary feeder replacement. This is outside of the rate study, 400,000, so totaling 1.2 million. My apologies. 400,000 in FY '27, '28, and '29.
Does that include the possibility of redoing of lift 3?
It could be kind of utilized for that. That project is going to be. Are you speaking in regards of if we got rid of lift station 1 and totally beefed up lift station 3 and did dual force main over the hill?
Right. I'm wondering if we just need to put a placeholder out there a little ways, so people would have an understanding that, and then also for the next rate study, the possibility of something, if we're looking at, I'm assuming that's millions of dollars for.
We still haven't decided if that's, we're looking at several options. Another option we're looking at is synchronizing the start and stop times of the pumps to make sure that we're in a kind of a steady state of flow. It's where we get to these kind of low spots and low flows. A lot of the conservation has really helped our consumptive use, but it's kind of hurt, on the sewer side and not getting consistent flows. So once that sewage, the age of it kind of reaches septic, it causes some pretty significant odors. And so that's what our primary purpose is, addressing the odor and then kind of setting up reliability for the future. But this project is intended to kind of be a general, like foothill replacement, Park Street, what we've got. I can see it getting into the lift stations also is a possibility, but it's a placeholder general scope for upgrades of the sanitary sewer starting in FY '27.
When would lift 3, if lift 3 was possibly done, when would be the soonest that would be done?
As far as like a complete rebuild of lift
Right.
3, it's going to depend on how much that costs and when can we start, right? So we're looking at just kind of what's needed to keep lift station 3 going in its
Right.
current design and capacity. But we're hoping with the studying the system and doing a strategic plan of the Hemingway Valley to present some options to the committee and then look at, hey, here's the kind of 2 ways we could go. Here's the cost. What do you think? And then, bring that to council as here's our 2 options. How can we fund it? There's a lot of federal dollars out there, but they come with, things that you have to do to kind of keep that. So it just kind of depends on how much money we have available and how much that costs. So.
No, I understand, and I'm just saying, because if it's sooner than later, then maybe what a possibility is, since you do the final SIP program, if I'm understanding correctly, can still be modified at the end of, well, in May or June, you go to the final budget. And so if something came up where it looked like you'd want to put a placeholder in there, you could take that back to council and say, we want to just look at, and I guess you're not
Sure.
even going to council because it's not going to be in 25. It's going to be later, so it's just a matter of later on. So, okay, never mind.
Okay. Okay, any other questions on sanitary sewer upgrade? Okay, all right, so now where my eyes were, effluent splitter box improvements. This project, we've got 410,000 budgeted, 70,000 in FY '25 and 340,000 in FY '26. So, any questions on this particular project or?
What's that gonna do?
So what we're kind of looking at in conjunction with the feasibility study with SNWA is kind of to prepare for the possibility of the treated effluent going back to the lake or for direct reuse. And so this is part of the wastewater treatment plant upgrades, kind of independent of that. So something that's needed after the headworks, the auger system being removed and the bar screen, so.
So is the purpose of this to basically, I know when the sewage leaves the plant, it goes into the desert.
Yes.
Is this where it basically splits it into two different paths going down into under the freeway there?
That's my understanding, yes.
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
So it's, there, it kind of needs to be done, but there's again, a kind of a possibility that this could change depending on,
What we do with
How-
that effluent, yeah.
yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, lift station 4 improvements. We've got 259,000 planned for FY '25. So for lift station 4, that's in the road. It's got the kind of the underground storage. You know, we're looking at the storage tank. You know, kind of what needs to be done with that, if we can kind of reline it or if we have to replace it. Also, the capability to hook up a backup generator for emergency procedures to make sure that, you know, with the storage that we've got, to kind of get down there and operate the station with that capability. That's what we're looking to improve for FY '25.
So is the existing tank, I think it's probably concrete, is it just starting to deteriorate from the sewage, or?
There's some corrosion kind of near the manhole, you know, where the tank and the other section connect.
Okay.
So. Okay, so the next project we've got sewer 21-105 or S2203. This is the concrete lined aeration basin improvements. And so we've got 200,000 planned in FY '25 and 200,000 planned in FY '26.
And is this with or without SNWA's or without SNWA study? It still needs to be done no matter what.
There's an asterisk, kind of like it can be changed, but assuming that nothing changes, you know, the 200,000 is for kind of the worst case spots that we've got to kind of make sure that we're still meeting our permit obligations out there. But then we could look to take some of that money away if it's going to be, depending on what happens with the treatment facility.
And that,
Go ahead.
no, so good.
So this lining the existing lining is deteriorating, or what?
Yeah, that's it would be to, it's that, I'm trying to think of the name of the material.
Soil
It's-
cement?
Like shotcrete or something like that?
Seemed like they did, I thought one of those was the soil cement when they did it years ago. They just mixed the dirt and the sand together and with concrete and kind of packed it in there, but, I know one of the old ones were asphalt and then
Right.
the soil cement, I think and I thought that was in the aeration basin, but I don't know for sure, but I'm trying to figure out what it would be.
Part of when they do their maintenance and kind of remove the solids out of there, where they're kind of noticing areas of concern, whether it's the entire basin or just a patchwork.
It's just general improvements of the concrete line.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. All right, and last wastewater project, sewer line relocation, Georgia at Buchanan. We've got $75,000 planned FY25. This is design planning, and then $750,000 planned for FY26. Part of this, we may look to align with this needs to be aligned with the street improvements. So that's just the caveat with this project, just to make sure that we're coordinating those activities. We're not putting this off. If the street kind of moves up, there's a possibility that this would move up. If the street project's going to be kind of way out, we could look to postpone this to align with that, but we want to maintain the 5-year no cut and kind of align those activities. So
Is that line at that point from the intersection down there into the plant, is that in pretty good condition?
that it needs to be evaluated.
Okay.
I mean, it's hard to get low flows there,
Yeah.
So
That's where
we
it
have to kind of get creative with ways to evaluate the pipe before kind of just putting down a spare or a bypass of some kind that would be a future permanent. So
Yeah, that used to be a flooding area down there, if I remember right. I think that's been mostly resolved. I think in a heavy rain, they used to get flooded out, because that's right there with the road to the substation.
right.
The veteran cemetery, we're talking right there, right?
Yeah, I did see, so in the, just FYI, that road that is on the docket for Parker Davis and Ty, which we're a part of, to be replaced
Oh, really?
for the customers, so.
Yeah, but they've been trying not to do that for years and years, and so now
Right,
they're,
it's,
because that's $1 million, that they quoted that at some million some dollars, but that
Yep.
would also have to be a flood issue with that. So one reason I brought it up is because then it'd be less problematic that something would happen if you had to move something and be within that flood area.
right,
But it might be wise down the road to look at a parallel line with that existing line, because
sure,
you got the one that goes down from Gingerwood, but you still got that one there, and if that goes out,
Yes.
it's going into the desert.
Yep.
At that point, it might not be a bad idea to have someday down the road, a second line that you could use in an emergency between the two of them. You'd have at least a backup to it,
and we may get that potentially out of the study, if depending on, because there's going to be, effluent pumped
Right.
up through
Yeah.
reusing the system
Mhm.
partially, and so that may be an opportune time to do that.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea to at least put in the thought process down the road.
All right, if there's no other questions on wastewater, move into water. First project, replace unit 313, and this is another vehicle replacement project, so I'll make sure that we note that in the description. And that's starting in FY26. The next project on the list, Water 23-103. This is a 14-inch line to solar field PRV construction, and we've got $600,000 budgeted for FY25. Any questions, comments on that?
Is it anticipated that is to supply the needs of possible future generation down in the valley?
It's uncertain what, that line, what's the purpose of that, right? It goes to the intersection of 95, I-11. I know the SNWA substation for Boulder Flats is in that area.
Mhm.
So that this really will be needed for as kind of part of that too.
Right.
But yeah, there's additional capacity for development down there, certainly.
Okay.
Well, I thought this one went all the way to, so we're talking 14-inch line to solar field, goes all the way to the solar field. It goes past the I-11 intersection, doesn't it? Because we've got sorry for the one wording, but they've got the pipe to nowhere right now.
To the intersection, okay, yeah, sorry.
That stops.
Yes,
And then this is the one that you're trying to upgrade or maintain because the PRs are, or either need to be updated or they're failing, one of the two.
yes, my mistake. So yeah, this is the in-service existing solar field PRV line,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
Next project, W2104, replace 8-inch butterfly valves. So this is a continuation of that existing project through 25, so we're not, anticipated to be done this fiscal year. We've got additional amount of replacements, and we anticipate that project to be done at the end of FY25.
Those valves are for what locations?
They're throughout the community. I think in some of the girl streets is the ones
Just
I'm.
isolation valves?
Yeah, kind of where I'm familiar with, yes.
Yeah, I think that, if I remember correctly, this project, if you remember Howard too, was talked about that the original valves weren't
Yeah,
designed to be what they are, and this is replacing the
right.
valves, so hopefully it takes care of the problems with the original design aspect.
And then the last project on the list for water is copper service replacement. And we've got 2.4 million budgeted from FY26 through FY29. So initially, this was like, 20-year plus project to replace all of the services with copper. It's been a good project for us to tackle, and there's some areas in town where we've gotten pretty lucky with the type of, clean breaks that we've had to return service pretty quickly. So we've got that project budgeted, from 26 through 29. So are there any questions on that?
So I guess two questions. Do you anticipate it, so you're saying 20 years, so you anticipate it to go out further than 29 then?
Yes.
Okay. And but you have enough budgeted, there's enough money now to go through 25? So to keep the project going?
I don't believe so. No, we would need to potentially look at some sort of pivot if we wanted to continue in FY25. There is a possibility to do that. So, that's if there's a project that doesn't have the kind of need, and this need rises above that, but we wouldn't be adding beyond the 3-year window of FY25 through FY27. So if something did change, you'd see it if FY24 through FY26, it would be outside the rate study window that we would make that adjustment.
Yeah, it might be something that either can be talked about at the citizens meeting or with the council, because
Sure.
to make sure there is money to go forward, because it sounds like some of the rumblings I've heard is that somebody was talking about money running out and they don't have enough to go forward. And so if it's going to be an ongoing situation, so I don't see that you cannot do work in 25, because
Okay.
we have to keep replacing it.
Is that something you'd like me to add?
Well, what
For-
does the committee think? I'm just thinking you can't really stop in 25.
I'm curious too, how, is the old part of town, the old town site, were those copper services? I think they were. Are they still in service, the old original lines?
Some, yes.
And so the copper, and those, are they still okay, or are they needing to be replaced as well?
Which parts of town are
The
you?
old part, the old town site, the 6 company homes down here in the alphabet streets, A, B, C, D.
I have to pull it up on my GIS, but.
I know that originally the town had copper every place, and then they started going to the poly and then the PVC. The poly was no good, the PVC seemed to work better, but then I know they've decided to go to copper to everything else now, so.
To go back, right. Yeah, I could get back to you on that.
Okay, I'm just curious, but how many are still there that are still good? Because copper seems to last forever.
Yeah, so I think that's the key issue. If you've got an area that has to be replaced, are we gonna
Yeah.
have anything that you've got potential
So-
problems ends in 25
Uh-huh.
that you don't have the money for?
Yeah,
So what we have the ability to do, if the committee so desires, is, to program some funds there in conjunction with moving funds outside of the rate study window. So that we do have the flexibility to do, mindful of cash flow, and council's approval. So if that's something that you would like to entertain with the ongoing list and the existing list, what would be the suggestion?
Yeah, it'd just be good to know how extensive this is going to be ultimately, so how many years, if you've got stuff that's working and you don't need to replace it, then, so much the better, so.
And I guess it depends on what condition the
Right.
solar field line is in too, whether that can be split and put some of the money in 1 year and some of the money into the copper replacement. I don't know if that'd be feasible or not, so split that to,
Maybe split the PRV
yeah,
in half and add that to copper services?
that's
just
what
to
I'm
have-
wondering, if that's feasible
Okay.
or not.
I mean, we don't have a bid on the PRVs yet. That's coming out of the model, so I don't know if 600,000 is going to be the number we need or not. But if that's something the committee suggests, I can make that change.
Well, with this, we're just trying to help here. It's what you guys can, just like, because I was hearing rumblings that they're finding problems in the Grove Streets with the old pipes. And so if you run out of money before all that's done, then you need to be able to make sure you get through all the important aspects. And so that's why I'm just concerned. So you sort of need to tell us what can be changed and what money could be available. And I guess we're just suggesting that it looks like there's a possible, for lack of a better word, hole right there, if I'm understanding.
Well, I know all the old polyethylene, at one point Lewis Holmes went to polyethylene services, and they just started failing.
Yes.
And so they had to replace those, and then the PVC seems to be the one that would last forever, but maybe that's starting to fail too. And then originally, like I said, everything was copper, and then they changed to these others, and not so lucky.
And maybe that's something that could be, because if I understand correctly, that there's a citizen meeting on the 29th of this month for the CIP. So could that be discussed among the staff and then discussed at that meeting? Because then you're going to take it to the council after that, right?
Right.
So maybe that could be discussed at the citizens meeting and
Yeah,
see.
it'd be good to know just how extensive the problem is, if it's out there. 100%
Well, it's,
Normally, we don't
we're-
get many people nowadays.
we don't have a proactive way to analyze what the issue is. We're addressing the issues as they come, kind of based on maintenance and repair. So, and some of that's miscellaneous, but what I can do and what I've done is just, for the time being, taken the PRV construction to 300,000 and then put 300,000 in copper service replacement. Now, if there's not enough in PRV and we need to add to that, there'll be impacts to that. Might need to, look at that outside the rate study window, but we could start there. And then,
The other would be is what, if there's any money that thoughts to be carried over from 24 to 25, then depending on what you need for that. Depending on what you believe is gonna happen this year. Because what is there, there's about 400 and some still left, or there's only 270 left, so there's not that much to go forward with.
right.
And most likely that'll be used by the end of this year. So that's why it looks like there is a gap in 25, and it seems a little bit, like, you've been pointing out before, is for safety purposes, I would think you'd want something there to be able to utilize.
Sure. Yeah, the gap occurred, as we programmed, I guess 3 years in one, and then programmed that out. And so we had to, that's where those gaps came from, is that we got a lot done, and.
Yeah, we had originally moved back so we could use ARPA, and I'm not sure
Yep.
if there's any way to use additional, you said the ARPA's got something, okay, nope.
I don't think that's,
But it's still something, I guess, so it basically, if something that could be brought up, maybe at the citizens to the councils, that there's a hole there, where can the money come from? We don't want to tell you to take away from another project without, you guys know what it is.
yeah.
We understand, but we're suggesting that there's, what can you do to fill that gap?
Yeah, and so, keeping things as simple as possible in the same utility fund, within the same fiscal year. Where I see we have the flexibility is kind of adjusting the PRV down and then putting that in there. And so that's something we can attempt
Okay.
and see if that goes from there. So to recap everything that we've discussed, from what you have in front of you on the 5-year plan, I've got 2 changes. One change in electric, the substation 6 upgrade, electric 20-123. The start of that project shifting from FY26 to FY28 and going between FY28 and FY29 due to the critical path of the conversion project and the need to not really upgrade 6 as part of that. It has enough capacity down there. And then the second change I've got in water is to take $300,000 from the 14-inch line to solar field PRV construction and move that to copper service replacement for FY25. Are there any other comments or changes or recommendations?
Anything, Howard?
I'm good. That's good.
Okay.
Sounds
That's
good.
very good.
That's good. And again, thank you very much for going through that in that detail. I greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, that has
certainly.
been nice.
Okay, good. All right.
So I guess if I looked at the calendar that was on the website next, I think I can talk about that, correct? Since it's
Yeah, I believe so.
SIP. So what we're looking at is, I think the major issue that everybody's probably wants to be aware of is the, okay, you've got a presentation, I guess there's 3 things then. You've got a presentation to the council on the 28th, and then a staff review, but you're not asking for a tentative approval until January, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so just so that for you, so for the committee, I think is the, November 28th is the council meeting with a presentation. 11/29 at 5 to 6 is a workshop for the citizens. If there's any way we could get some information out there, would be great. Last year, I think there was 3 of us citizens, 5 at the very most, that was at that meeting last year.
Why we changed the time to later in the afternoon, and Lisa blasts it all over social media.
Okay,
So-
great. That's because, yeah.
We changed the time to the afternoon, and it's on social media.
Okay, I appreciate, no, thanks for.
Yeah, for the record.
Thank you. And then, so on, so the 9th then is the tentatively asking council for approval of capital plan. Okay.
Fine. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So anything else on the capital improvement?
I don't believe so. I mean, we're still pursuing as much federal funding as we can that doesn't have, the burden of managing over time. So we're still trying to get whatever we can out of that electric, water and wastewater. And so as those opportunities become available, we'll share that with the committee.
Okay, thank you. So we'll close out item number 3 and go to item number 4, which is the update for water and power by the staff. I'm losing
Yes, let me just grab that agenda one moment.
my agenda.
Okay. So agenda item 4, water and power consumption update. First, I'll talk about the water. So you can see in your packet kind of various decreases in consumption, a little bit of a spike in August, late August. Year over year, not quite sure where that came from, but we did have kind of higher than normal temperatures. But overall, we were decreasing. So I'll pull up let's see. So here's July. So you could see in July, for the total month of July, year over year, we were up almost 13%. And compared to the 3-year average, we were up about 1.1%. So part of this, we think, is due to the golf courses not overseeding but then kind of needing some more water during the summer months to kind of maintain playability. But just with regular outdoor usage, we're still hopeful with our conservation measures that we're going to be down for the year. But that's what we saw in July.
Now, this is the actual July, not what was, not June.
Correct.
And so,
Yeah.
is the information on the website, is that July, or is that billed in July, which was actually June? Is it shifted 1 month?
I'm not sure. I'll have Josh weigh in on that.
So that, you're talking about the dashboard, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so that is by bill date, which is the previous month.
So, yeah, because I know our months, that's what's confusing on our, can be confusing on our bill, is you're looking at the month before. So with this being July, July was also a hotter month than last year, was it not?
I believe so. Oh, yeah.
So
It
that
was
could have been-
definitely.
The temperature might have been some to do with that, and it still could be partly with the golf course then needing
Yep.
more water, but it was probably the heat caused additional
He,
on top of that. So just understanding, that's where it gets,
Yes.
so and it's hard to match that, so that, your July is gonna be June, and so it's gonna be, again, with some of these, the reports we have compared to the website and some of these, they're not apples and apples completely, so we just need.
yeah, we could look to kind of adjust that. There would be a delay, but we could look to just kind of rename that. That's not a problem.
I think it would be helpful, because
Okay.
then you know that it was heat-related or not, because I think actually this June wasn't as hot this
It
year.
was good, if I remember
Yeah,
right.
we had a
July
nice-
It got hot though in July.
Yeah, so then it's July, and I think that's what, I tried to look at, this July for '23 was pretty nice in your study, and this had it higher. So I think that makes sense, because that was June, whereas August,
So we'll align that, make sure it's apples to apples, as you say. So no, it makes sense. We had 10 days of above 110 degrees, which was, I think, tied a record.
Yeah.
And we did have a number of outages that occurred during that period, electrical, that, were due to that event. We peaked July 21st, almost 51 megawatts.
Now, was that actually lower? Because in my memory, have we averaged 50, or is it averaged 52 for the last several years? I was thinking 52 was our higher amount.
I don't have that kind of back. Right now, I just have the last 3 months in front of me, but I could do some digging to see.
That's fine, because actually what
Okay.
I was going to ask after we get to the water, so if you talk about the power, is that if we could know some of the megawatt hours too, because most of what we deal with is the energy, not
Yep.
the demand. So knowing the peak is great, because we've worked with that, but if we can get the hours too, I didn't see, because what you had in the packet was just what was forecasted for Hoover.
Yes.
And there was nothing and that was just Hoover power there. And
Yes.
so we're only seeing a piece of everything. So that was, for the electrical, was a little concerning.
Yeah, the part of the issue that we face with, kind of using Silver State Energy Association is getting the deviation reports in a timely fashion.
Gotcha.
So we're working with them on that, and that's where we get our actual usage. But the consumption dashboard has that, and so you should be able to look at that. It's billed, so it's a month behind, but the power consumption does have the energy, so
I don't think, okay, I'll have to, because I don't think I saw
The,
consumption.
the power isn't live right now.
It's
I
not
was, I
live,
was
okay.
waiting on those deviation reports so I can get that on there.
Okay, so that is something we're working through, and so we're in conversations with SNWA on a number of fronts, and hopeful that we can kind of get what we need information-wise from them.
So I guess if we're still on power for a minute, then are we seeing is there any relief on the cost, or is it the same or even more?
We are seeing a little bit of a relief on the cost. Overall, it looks to be like there was, in general, an overestimation of what our needs were, probably based on the reaction to underestimating so much from the year before. So when we get that, we'll be able to share that with you. And I understand your frustration also. So I share that with you, and am am hopeful we can kind of get a path forward where we're able to operate and share the information readily.
Yeah, because that,
So will we have an idea of what our average wholesale power cost in the months of the summer will be? I think, I had the impression that it was up around 7 cents a kilowatt hour for average.
Yeah, it has been on the budgeting side, yeah. And so the deviation report kind of shows what the actual was.
Okay,
And so what we've kind of seen is that the price of market energy has come down.
oh, that's good,
So that's given us, some breathing room.
right.
We haven't necessarily gone under our usage. Some cases we have, but like the month of July, we did not because of the weather patterns.
What are the market costs, Joe?
So they vary, widely. We're looking at ways to kind of hedge our dependence on market with other power purchase agreements, but it's. I mean, I'm not a financial expert or kind of in that, but it varies widely.
Like what kind of range are you talking about? Like,
Yeah, I mean, it's been less than it has. It's certainly come down, but I don't have that data
Yeah.
to share with you,
I
unfortunately.
mean, 7 cents is a pretty good price.
It seems like, well, I know the Hoover's still around 2.5 cents, and the
Yes.
Crisp is probably what, 3 cents, something like that. But the solar that we buy is 4 cents.
Mm-hmm.
But the through Silver State was up around 7 or 10 cents a kilowatt hour or something like that.
In some cases, it was much higher
Higher
than
than
that.
that, yeah. Because it seemed like that the average was in the 7 cent range, if I remember right, something like that last year. so.
but it had been down to 3.
Well, yeah,
3 and 4
for
in the
years it
past,
was
so
always,
It was,
3 cents, 2 cents,
yeah,
2.5
yeah,
cents.
so that was,
Yeah, that was,
but just as an insight, if it helps, what I can understand, so if you're looking at other options, that's great.
Yes.
Because what I could see with the information we were given is that we were buying a day ahead through Silver State. And that's probably when the market is high, that's probably the worst thing you can do.
Yeah.
Because you're buying at what they can sell it for, and we're not getting any advantage of any other off times. And so if there's something else we can look at, then that'd be great. Because that other one because that was the other thing too, was some of the studies we were showing, so we were buying, and that's probably what the day ahead was killing us too, we were buying balancing power and selling it because we were over buying it, or Silver State was buying it for us and then selling it. And then last year's estimate or actual, I think it was estimate, was that they weren't going to sell any. So that was very confusing to try to figure, because that was a big difference in the cost. And before they were buying it, but they were selling it, so they were offsetting it. And then one of the studies they were showing us is, no, they're not going to offset it, so it's extremely high. So if that's set off, then, we might be lucky to reduce by a reasonable amount to help with the rates.
What we're ultimately trying to do is to round out our portfolio to get to, maybe 5% reliance on market. So we just need to make sure that we're positioned not to give up so much during times like this where demand has really kind of plummeted by a factor of 5. The energy usage has gone down 5 times now compared to when it peaked, at the end of July.
Right,
So-
right. Yeah, your November and December and January, or it should be, especially seems like November was
At least
different.
on this forecast, it's good, steadily going down.
Yep.
Yeah. So, well, that's the forecast for what power they're going to get, not
Correct,
what they're planning
correct.
to use, and
Right,
that's
right.
the issue with. So I guess
It all blends together, so.
well, somewhat, because we can only get that amount, and then we got lucky with the big water event snow or however you want to say it, but with the big amount that we were able to save or get in Lake Mead, that saved the capacity. But unfortunately, not unfortunately, it was good. We also released less water, so which means we had less power available, as it looked like also
Yep.
for this year. And we need to do that, and so we're going to probably have less available. But since everybody takes a certain cut, maybe if we're lucky, Boulder City won't get the big cut. We'll have a certain amount of capacity that we were losing, but we have less water to go through. So we'll see how everything flows out for that for Hoover A and B. And then I guess the same thing with SLIPA, or however you want to say it.
Salt Lake City, yeah,
Salt
Lake.
Salt Lake City, they're crisp anyway, yeah, it was, with that flush they had in the Grand Canyon that helped with Glen Canyon anyway.
Oh,
Some of
yeah.
the stuff we got for CRISP, so, or SLCA anyway.
So yeah, so we have to be careful, but at least we're at least a couple years out of that zone of not being threatened by getting no hydropower.
Sure.
And so that helps a lot. So I hear what you're saying, and and thank you for the update that things are being looked at, because I think the information with the rate study was pretty bleak. And so anything that can be done for that. So that's why it's nice to understand, where the cost is and if we're using under or over, so what we sort of expect would be great. Now, is that a January or March that Silver State usually gives you the budget for the next, 3 years?
Well, for the next 1 year, they vote on it,
Oh.
but January
Oh,
timeframe,
January.
yeah.
So, but we wouldn't have that in the January meeting then. That would be in the March meeting,
Yeah, there's a possibility, but yeah, probably the March meeting.
unless there was a draft. that
Yeah,
could
if
be
there's a
shared.
draft, I could bring it to the committee.
That'd be great. If
Yep.
they're voting, yeah, that'd be great.
So going back to kind of where we were with water, right? So July, again, we saw, quite the temperature difference that we did the year before. And that's kind of notable to our modest increase year over year. For August, year over year, we did have another spike. It was a hot August, kind of compared to the year before, but compared to the 3-year average, we still were down almost 11%. So that's promising with our total usage, and overall we've been down since 2016 38% in our usage. So that's really beneficial. And then in the month of September, we compared to last year's usage, we were down about 4%, and then for the 3-year average, we're down 19%. So it's kind of hard to predict exactly where these changes occur since we don't have a ton of visibility into our system. We are looking at ways to get more information, get more data, on the metering side, as well as kind of like leak detection with acoustic capabilities. We're investigating those, if that would help us. We just finished up the water audit with Kavanaugh and Associates, and we'll get a total water loss number that we expect for our system, and I'll be able to report that to the committee probably the next meeting.
Okay, great.
Well, something else too, as you look around, as you drive around town, you'll see more and more people are going to desert landscaping, and the worry to that is if our revenues continue to decline because we're not selling enough water, then the rates are gonna have to go higher, and it's gonna be one of those bad things.
I think that we're at a place where we're good on water with kind of establishing what's needed on the fixed cost side.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we're still wanting to conserve as much as we can.
Right, but I just hope we don't continue to conserve to the point that because our fixed costs are gonna stay the same. Operating the utility, you gotta still have so much money to do it. So
Yes.
if you're not selling as much water, then that means you're gonna have to keep raising those water rates up, which is gonna be like they call the death spiral, so.
But it looks like we don't have as many capital improvements that are needed in the
No.
water systems. I mean, this copper
Yes.
water, the copper pipe is the issue, but that's just kind of an O&M
Right.
CIP
So if we don't
type
have to
thing.
spend money on improvements,
But,
then we can deal
You
with
know,
it.
I don't know, it seems to me that, yeah, I know that's the problem
Yeah,
with everything with conservation is losing that.
using that revenue
You're
stream.
losing your SCIP stuff, so. But, I still think when it gets down to it, we're accused by SNWA and others that, we do use too much water per capita, per person, is what the real rub gets to be in the news media and
Yeah.
whatnot. But if you compare to how much expansion we have in the city versus other areas, we're really on the ball there.
Sure.
And I think we need to get some sort of credit for that and quit ignoring the fact that, we do use more per capita, but when you look at what's happening in Vegas and Henderson and whatnot with all their expansions, and hell, I just saw where they just sold some odd, the BLM sold a bunch of land to a developer out in Red Rock area.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's more, yeah, if it's down to still at 100, what is it, they saying 200 gallons per person per day, if you add another 50,000 people,
Exactly.
that loses water.
Well-
You know, that's not conserving water there.
It's kind of a quality of life issue in Boulder City. A quality of life is to have a small town with,
Yeah.
where you know people and part of that is the greenery and the grass that we have and things like that. And so
Well,
we've
you
kind of
know.
addressed the issue as opposed to,
Well, that's,
it's just,
right.
in Vegas, just grow, 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 grow. you know,
Right, and
so-
that's the big sell, is trying to get people to, lose that greenness, but with the number of parks we have, you have to promote the parks as the area where you go, and,
Yeah.
I would drive through, right over here, every night, I drive through this area, and I see all kinds of people in there with their animals and their dogs and
Yeah.
kids and all that stuff, and that's what we have parks strategically placed all through town. And, kids with their bikes and running around and having fun and stuff, so, that's what you gotta promote, but, that's another issue down the road. But I still think, when we get hit by people saying that we don't control our per capita use, I don't think there's a way, they're not really apples to apples.
Growth,
No.
growth is the deal. In Vegas, it's about selling land and
Yes,
developers and
correct.
houses. Here, it's quality of life.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's still a lot of it, I still believe, is that the amount of water that the golf courses use compared to the population is not the same as Vegas. So it's not apples. The numbers, statistical data is not apples and apples. Even though SMWA says it is, I don't believe it is. And so we really need to look at some of the statistical data better. So, because I agree,
and-
we're being slammed for something that we're not the evil city out
Correct,
here
yeah, we gotta
that's
speak up,
wasting
we have to
water.
speak up to that.
Yeah, I believe we should. We've got 18,000 acre feet of water we're using between 9 and 10, and we're trying to stay below 10. So we're 9 to 8,000 acre feet of water that we're not even using,
Right.
and that Vegas is using
It's
of our
gonna use
water.
it, and they're gonna encourage growth, and we'll never get it back.
Exactly. So, we're not wasting water to keep it, but at the same time,
I don't believe that. I agree. I think you're correct. And that's what we had to be prepared for when the city gets accused of that per capita issue.
exactly. So I think that's I think
Decision that's
Yeah.
been made, yeah.
So I think the committee, we still want to keep reminding people that Boulder City is really not that far out of step
Sure.
from everybody else. So it's just there so that, but by saying we are, then they can take more of our water.
Well, and that's
But-
what I know Ned said that many times, and I was totally in disagreement, but I've thought about that, and I think you're extremely correct, so.
Well, we could get to the capital numbers if we built, 30,000 homes and then didn't change any
Yeah.
parks. That would get us there.
And
Well,
we
no,
already
no,
have.
and that's crazy,
Well, years ago, when Del Webb came to town, wanted to build this area from Gingerwood all the way to the Railroad Pass into Sun City. The city said, no, we don't want that growth. We don't want it.
But, I think as long as we go for those goals that the golf courses have been asked to do as far as water per acre and whatnot, and then if we look at our community, our users, our city users, I think we'd have to look, that's almost the way we'd have to start looking at it. If the golf courses is keeping in line with their watering requirements and reducing grass and this and that for that purpose, and if we look at what our per capita person residential uses are, that would probably make a better difference.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
it would.
Go ahead.
No, wait.
We've evaluated the water budgets for the golf courses, for Cascada, Boulder Creek, and the Muni. And, we could bring that to the committee for the next meeting.
That would be good, because it changes in the end of 2024? Is it December of
It's next
2000?
year.
But
Really is when it
December.
kinda
It'd be
kicks
nice
in.
to start pushing
Yeah, no,
toward
no.
that right now, I mean, and that's another positive thing on our side, is to say, okay, we're pushing toward that, rather than sitting around waiting for it to happen.
Right, and we got to remind people about the non-functional grass, too.
Sure,
Yep.
So
of course,
So that's,
Yeah.
people, doesn't happen in November.
And the payback, and the
2024.
payback for what you want in your lawn, if you go to desert landscaping, it's not a one-to-one trade-off. You're gonna spend more money to do that yourself.
Well, air conditioning and everything else,
and
because you have
whatnot.
it.
So,
hotter.
but it's the payback, the cost per square foot, it really is a nice payback, I mean, So our job, we did it at our house, but we added a lot more plants, so it cost us a lot more money to do what we wanted to see.
What you wanted to see,
What
yeah.
we wanted to see. So, but if you just went with a straight rock, you probably could get almost a 1-to-1 payback. So,
But as we've stated before, I think if the city continues to, and I'm saying it in a positive, not a negative, if the city continues to reduce the energy and the water, that's a win-win, because then you're paying wholesale. And so it doesn't reduce the amount that we need for infrastructure.
right.
And we're not reducing the rate base, so that's a very help. So the golf course is coming down, so that's a big advantage. So
Yep.
more of the water is from the city reduction, not the people, so that's a good. And then, so
Streetlights.
really quickly, since we're still
Yep.
on water, then maybe
Okay.
sometime in the future we can talk, I mean, still on power and stuff, is solar. Again, if the city can do a certain amount with solar, if it works out, then that's almost more beneficial than the citizens doing something with solar, because again, I
Yeah.
think you can shut things off, or you can do things that, for the city benefit, where you lose the revenue from the citizens.
Sure. Yeah, kind of going back to power to give you guys a min and max of where we were, right? And for the 3 months of July, August, and September, we hit our low on September 21st, and that was about 8.8 megawatts needed early in the morning, and then again, just over 50 megawatts, not over 50 and a half though, on the 21st of July was our peak demand.
Well, 15 years ago, when I was here, we were peaking at 50 megawatts for quite a few summers. 55
Okay.
megawatts for a few years there.
Well, that shows you kind of what we've done
Right.
conservation
Over the last
wise.
15 years, we're
Yeah.
down quite a bit in the
Yeah, we're
peak.
down-
We
we
should have
pro-
gone up
Yeah.
normally if you'd followed the trend, but it's come down.
Come down, yep.
So,
Good deal.
So that's everything for water. I don't have a slide for you additional on electric. I'll look to kind of what we do is we look at the meters. They come in at meet and tap, and I can kind of get that. There's a graphical representation of that, and then there's a CSV file, so I can kind of make sure that that's into the next staff report, so you have the full picture, not just Hoover. So I appreciate that feedback. Any other kind of questions or thoughts on water power consumption?
do you have anything else, Howard?
I'm good.
Okay, no, again, thank you for the feedback. The additional information is helpful, and it allows us to sort of point the view and trying to use this. I think we're trying to present ours, but also the citizens' aspect of the power and water. So,
Right.
thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Okay, so we'll close out item number 4 and go to item number 5 for discussion of potential agenda items. Do you guys have any comments?
I'm good.
I'm fine too.
I have some suggestions, see if we can see. What I was wondering, Joe, can we do, put on the agenda for next, for January to can we have it as a possible action discussion of the admin funds? So that's the billing, the admin fund, and the central services? So we can discuss with finance, we can understand it.
Yeah, I think the first thing, let's kind of make sure we're on track for the meeting schedule for the year, what we were kind of thinking with the potential agenda items. So the next meeting, January, is that kind of what was agreed upon the last meeting is when we would start, not the February meeting, is that right?
Yes, I saw,
January, March.
if everybody understands, well, there's only 3 of us, I guess, here, but just make sure that's the 7th, no, that's the 3rd of, is it the 3rd of January? It's the first Wednesday, so it's not too far after the
First is on Monday, right?
3rd.
3rd. So I don't, so is that a problem for anybody, or is it a problem for staff? You're 2 days off the first of the year, which is not necessarily a problem, but just making sure people aren't taking extended holidays.
I mean, I'm going to be available then, so,
I think I'm going to be here.
yep, yeah, we'll both be available.
By video, but I'll be here.
Okay, you can at least, yeah, because with 5 of us, and it could be problematic to make sure we get in the quorum.
Yeah, January, I would plan on myself doing it by video.
So what I would ask in reference to what you're saying, Joe, is that if we all leave ourselves available for the first Wednesday of the month, because I still am concerned that come March, April, and May, that we might need additional meetings for the budget purposes, to make
Okay.
sure that everything is covered. And the other thing that I was going to ask about was starting to discuss some of the future rate issues. Because we do rate studies in 3 years, but can we start doing them earlier? And we might want a meeting to add in there too, somewhere to sort of help with that. And I'd really like to not sure who's available, not putting anybody on the spot, but not sure who is going forward after June. With the current schedule, we only have 2 meetings with the 4 other, besides myself. All the other 4 are up in next June. And my understanding is it was just January and March were the last meetings of this year. Whether it was June or July was the next suggested one. So I'd like to get as much information and have the input of the current committee as much as possible.
Okay.
So I would see that would possibly be another meeting or so, if that's agreeable with everybody.
Probably, depends on what it is, but probably, yeah.
Well, what I'm saying, if we leave the first Wednesdays open of each month, then if we get to January and we see, okay, we need something else, then we at least have that available. Is that, so
It's fine.
at least the 3 of us,
Because our meetings are not going to be, what, every other month?
no, it's every 3 months.
Every 3 months, okay.
Right. So I'm just
No, I agree.
suggesting adding 1 or 2 extra meetings
Yeah.
especially before next June.
Probably, yeah. I mean, there may be something come up that I don't know about, but yeah, it should be.
So yes, so to answer your first question, Joe, is so the 3 of us are okay with the 3rd of January.
Okay.
And so then if we can, so is that anything else on that, Joe?
You mentioned March too. Is that the desire of the committee to have a meeting in March rather than April?
Oh, it was, okay. April was your next date, sorry. It was April, not March.
Yeah, April would be the first of the next quarter.
That's true, not March. Well,
I think we should see in January what
That's
we're
what-
going to need.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
So at a minimum, that would be our kind of, hey, we have to meet in this amount of time at a minimum.
Yeah,
and then
so
evaluate
April would be the minimum, but I think, again, if the city can hold the 1 through 4 slot in the first Wednesday also, and if we hold the 1 through slot, then we would know 1 through 4 slot on the first Wednesday of each month.
You know,
Sure, so that's March
I'm
or
going to be
April.
gone the 3rd of January. I didn't realize that. I just looked. I forgot we had something scheduled.
Is there any chance you can call in?
Possibly. Yeah, probably could.
Because otherwise we'd have to move it to I think I'm going to see you on the 7th. I'm not sure if I'm going, because we do have a
I might
problem.
be able to call in. I'll look and see. Yeah, I'll have to look and see. If there's others that can fill in,
Well, that's the problem. So can we, since we don't have 2 of the other members, can you put an email out and make sure we have a quorum for the 3rd
Of January?
January?
Yes.
Okay.
yeah, because I've got,
I'm not sure how much flexibility we have to move it around in January.
Yeah, I could take a look at the calendar
Okay,
and then see
see, that's,
if is there a preference Wednesday, same time if there's
Fine.
yeah,
okay.
yeah, Wednesday's good.
So going back to the next meeting for the agenda, so discussing possible potential agenda items. Does the committee, is this kind of format for the agenda, at least on the regular updates work?
well, the updates, yes.
Okay.
I had quite a few more, just because since we're meeting less often, I think we can have a few more agenda items that shouldn't take a lot longer, though, because if we do the admin fund issue, that could take a little bit, but it shouldn't be a real long issue. And then whether we do a general budget discussion, because of trying to get ready, if we don't meet until April is the only meeting we'd have to discuss budget. If we meet if we meet in because we won't be discussing, there won't be any budget information to discuss in January, if I understand correctly. So if we talk about the admin, we can talk about at least the aspect of that fund. And if we talk about the general budget, just so the committee make sure we're on the same page.
Okay,
But that shouldn't be a really long discussion. We should be able to do that relatively soon. But also then, since the CIP is going to the council on the 9th, then maybe if we do meet on the 3rd, maybe it'd be good to just do a quick overview, and that would be, what, about a 15-minute to half an hour discussion of the CIP. This is what you're taking to the council, and we go from there.
well, I think I'm gonna take, the committee's, the suggestions that the committee made, that's what I'm gonna take. So the only change that the council's gonna see for FY '25 is that change in water, because they're only approving the next fiscal year. They don't approve the 5-year plan.
Okay.
So, but I'm gonna make the recommended changes of the committee and bring that to council as part of the CIP process.
Okay, you guys okay with that then?
Should be, but I was just looking, I might be gone in April on the 3rd as well. We've scheduled 6 months ago for Hawaii, actually, in April, so I don't know, we'll see.
Okay, so, see, April, I think April's free. So.
I mean, there's others gonna be here, so.
Well, the problem is we don't know that.
Yeah.
Now we're down to 5, and there was only 3 available for this one.
That's true.
With the change of the meeting, it made it more. So I think maybe what we need to do is put, either between March and April, put out if we can put January, because I don't think we need one in February, but there's a possibility of one in March, but it depends if you have the budget available data in March. So whether it's March or April, and then how much we can shift that date. So what's available, if you could put especially without Greg and Andy here, we really need to have a request put out, I guess, email out to the committee.
So he's going to, what's happening with him?
So for the next meeting, got kind of minutes, continue on with status updates on CIP, water and power consumption, potential agenda items, and then just the exact wording of what, what you want for possible action on the admin charge.
Yes, with that includes, so as long as we're on the same, that includes the 3 funds, the billing, the admin fund, and the central service fund. So if we can get that, discuss that, which, with possible action. So if we have any suggestions that we need to vote on as a suggestion.
Okay.
That we'd be able to vote on it with possible action. The other one is, so again, I don't think it's gonna be take that long, is I know we're trying to keep it down, but if we can we start with future rate studies to put an agenda item on that? So, because last time, with this last study, there was a lot of discussion about cost of service. And if we wait 3 years to discuss what we think it needs to be cost of service, I think we're gonna be in a similar boat where we're not doing it. So I think we had discussed during the rate study, I thought we had discussed about doing smaller cost of service, picking a couple items and saying we're doing a cost of service for this. For instance, doing the cost of service of water for the commercial. So, they've only got 2 categories. Can we change their categories of water, the rate, and so what would a cost of service look like to do that? So could we do that in 2025 or something like that, or even, 2025 possibly?
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if that needs to be an agenda item, if that's something that the committee wants to formally act upon, or,
I think it would have to be, because to discuss rates, it has to be agenda item.
okay. So I've got then the for possible action, billing, central services, admin, and then cost of service for commercial water.
Well, no, I'd say if we could, but I know, I'd like to have it a little more general, just future rate studies. Can we just talk about future rate studies? So we can start saying what the committee is, what we sort of, we stopped at a certain point with the rate study, so can we pick up where we stopped with the rate study and sort of keep discussing? I don't think the committee, we still had some concerns for going forward, and we just wanted to sort of discuss it. And if we just start discussing it, then we can decide, we won't have to take up a lot of time in the meeting, but we can discuss it. But if we bring it all the way to April, then this committee, we might even have time in April to do it, if we
Yeah,
have
I-
a lot of budget issues.
I mean, I think we stick to the revenue requirements, that's what's needed, make sure we stay focused. So if it's something the committee wants to act upon at this juncture, we have a plan for, a 3-year period of time that we're looking to stick to. We're not looking to deviate on the capital side or the operation and maintenance side for FY '25, and not looking to kind of do that going forward. But if that's something that the committee wants to kind of pursue related to revenue, then I think it certainly could be on the agenda. But
Revenue study the rate studies are a revenue requirement issue.
right, no, I'm not saying that that's not. I'm just saying that we just completed that study, so I don't know how soon. What else is needed? So cost of service for commercial water. I mean, that's certainly something that can be looked at.
Well, I guess what I'm trying to do is right now, I can bring these items up, but we can't discuss that. If we talk about rates, then we can discuss it among the committee to say what would be something feasible in fiscal year '22, fiscal year '25, no, excuse me, '25, '26. So without agenda item, we can't discuss it. I can bring it to you now with this agenda item, but we can't discuss it. So if I just say the commercial cost of service, that limits us to one thing. What I'm trying to do is open it up to say, okay, what in the last study did the consultant say had to be a cost of service? And so the next go around, we're being told it has to be a cost of service. So the earlier we discuss that, the better off we'll be. And that's a revenue related, because it's a cost of service. What can we modify that can help the rates going forward?
Well, we may want to, with that too, look and see where we're at, what, up to that point, what the existing rates are bringing in those different categories, and seeing if we're on the right path, I guess.
Yeah,
We can look at the numbers and see what the revenues are looking like at that point, and see if it's what we projected.
Okay, so maybe like just a spot check on how actuals are compared to the study?
that would be great. So
Okay.
if we say a future rate study, then we have a little bit of flexibility. Maybe you and I can talk if we want to sort of generalize it. So not take a lot of time up, because we've added a few extra agenda items, but not be so specific that we can't talk about it a little bit more. Because again, if we only have the meeting in January and April, then this committee won't be able to discuss anything more, because who knows if they're going to be here in next June or not, after next June.
Well, we got to make sure we're focused on, business.
Well, that is business. It's business related to revenue requirement related to rates going forward that we did not discuss in the rate study we did do, because we were told it had to be cost of service. So we talked about a portion of things, but not all of the rate aspect concerning this committee. Now, am I off base here? If everybody else doesn't want to go there, then we can wait.
No, I think we need to look at it.
Okay.
So I'm just trying to have a general so we can talk about it.
Okay. So general discussion on cost of service.
If you want to, I'd say rate studies if possible, but if it needs to be cost of service, then that's fine. But the rate study would allow us to say, where are we at now, and where do we want to go in the future?
What's the impact of that?
Right. So
Yeah,
that,
we need to know that.
right. So I think if we say rate study discussion, we could just say rate study discussion. That gives us more flexibility.
Okay.
Yeah, that would, that would work, because without putting a bunch of work on you guys, at least if we can have an idea where we're at, if we're meeting the needs at that point that we need to cover costs and expenses, so.
All right.
Yeah, so that's a good point. Thank you. So we're not asking you to do a lot of research for the meeting, so we don't want to take your time up. We're just saying we want to be able to discuss it.
Okay.
See if we're making the money we hoped we would make, at that point.
Yeah,
Fair.
that'd be great.
So I got that as item 6, and then, then the final item would be discuss potential agenda items related to revenue requirements of the utility for upcoming meetings.
Yes, okay.
Say, when is that report from SNWA due?
What's that?
When's that report from SNWA due?
April.
April, so we have a meeting
Very good.
in April. So
Yeah.
that's April 3rd.
There is one more thing. There was some something about some possible changes to water contracts or something. Is that something that can be brought to us, or is that not a revenue requirement issue?
I have to look into that. I mean, I'm not sure if it is at this time, but and right now we're kind of in negotiations with SNWA on the agreement and the F&O agreement. So it does have the potential, but I don't think at this time it has any impact on the revenue requirement.
Okay. It's just a matter of if there is just, I guess, just to everything knows if it is. Well, I guess it can't discuss it, so that's fine. Okay, so we'll close out item number 5. Yeah, and go to public comment. So we'll open up public comment. Again, there was nothing sent in, right? Okay, so we'll go to line 702-589-9629. Okay, hearing no comments or anybody calling in, we will close the meeting for the, Joe, was there anything else before I close, adjourn?
No, sir.
Okay, I don't think there's anything else.
I think we're good.
So we are at 4:11, we're adjourned at 4:11, close the meeting. Thank you.